And three. All right. There Will Be Bourbon has returned with actual bourbon this time. And the return of, oh yeah, he's got a Coke. The return of the educated Billy, or the educated hillbilly, the fear the floof, Rob Province. He's back. What's up, brother?
Nothing much, man. Just getting off work.
Yeah. Well, as always, these discussions are fueled by America's native spirit, and I have returned to a bottle I have not visited in quite some time, and it's almost gone, which is also good. But the good old granddad 114 from the fine Jim Beam distillery. So that's what will be fueling my discussion tonight. And Rob will drink a Coke, which now, what are we doing? Mexican Coke? What do we got? Regular Coke? What do we got?
This is Coke Zero because I'm on call.
Okay, Coke Zero. So he's just going straight up, no cal. All right. And then I'll follow that up with the good, as I talked about last week, the old Waterloo Cherry Limeade, the two greatest flavor combinations of all time, cherries and limes. Just saying. All right. Man, not much going on out there, huh?
No, the world's been very calm and relaxed. Everybody's chill. Nothing's going on, man. Not much to talk about. Everybody's behaving themselves.
Everyone's behaving themselves. Nobody's tried to shoot anyone this week.
Has it
And
been a week? Has it
what's
been?
that?
Has it been? Has it been a full week?
I think it has. Yeah, I think we're at +9. I think so we're getting pretty far away from the fact that someone tried to shoot and kill a former president. His opponent retired, apparently. No one's seen him in 5 days. Don't really even know if the dude's alive. Like, I think it's a legitimate question, don't you?
He legit just called in like randomly to his campaign headquarters live on TV. So that is the first proof of life we've had in 5 days.
Was it?
Biden just called in 5 minutes ago to his
Oh, I didn't see
campaign
that.
headquarters, like 5 minutes. Sounded like shit, but
Was it on video or
we do
was it
have
an
proof
audio
of
call?
life unless they recorded him.
Well, I was gonna say, was it video or audio?
It was a phone call. So he called
Okay.
in, yeah.
So, did he reference anything of recent? I mean, that could
Uh,
be.
he did reference dropping out. He did reference,
Okay.
that, thank you for all working hard and all the usual, like,
Yeah.
campaign headquarters stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, that is our first sign of life in 5 days.
And at that point, that's why I've returned to my campaign of 2020, or my ticket, which was Jim Beam and Wild Turkey of 20. So we're just going to we're going to run that back in 24 and see if we get a
There
better
you
outcome. Because at this point, I think you were kind of like me. You're kind of not the biggest fan of the former president either. So, but where do you
Not
stand now?
Well, I'm not the fan of any president,
Yeah.
and to sort of kick this off, I'm like, to just sort of inform the kids, because how old are you now?
How old? 43.
See, you're old enough that you can kind of realize this is not normal.
Yeah. Oh,
Like,
not at
I mean,
all. No, not at
so the
all.
record,
Yeah.
I'm 50 years old,
Yeah.
and this is not normal, kids. Like, for those Zoomers and millennials out there, maybe the older millennials, you're like an older millennial, they can kind of figure that out. The younger millennials and Zoomers, I'm like, I feel like there's been so much fucked up insanity pretty much since, I would say, like, the press lost its mind with the election of Trump. That it's
2016. Yeah,
been pretty
sure.
much 8 years of just completely, like, imagine like 8 years worth of news, and the previous like 42 years had that much news in it. I
Yeah.
mean, the last assassination was 1980. Was it 81 or 84?
I think it was 84. Wasn't it his second
Was it
term?
84? I mean, that's a long
Either.
time, man. I mean, that's a long time.
Yeah.
And we had an assassination. We've had a president that has probably been mentally defunct for like at least 3, if not 4 years. I'm convinced he was defunct when he ran because he was running from his basement.
Yeah.
We haven't had that in my lifetime. I mean, the last time you have to go back is there's rumors that Roosevelt was not in his right mind in the last, what it was, his fourth, presidency. There was always been the rumors that his wife was kind of running the presidency towards the end there with Roosevelt.
Is that
And
where the
then we
term limits
have
came out of?
what's that?
Is that where the term limits came out of?
Yeah, well, I mean, he's responsible. I mean, he's the reason we have term limits now.
Right.
Yeah, it's like everybody agreed, even the Democrats agreed, that he had coalesced way too much power in 4 presidencies, that it was probably wise that they never allow that again, because he pretty much he was pretty much the closest thing we've ever had to a king.
Yeah.
And they were like, every single person in federal government was appointed by him. Every single person in federal government was loyal to him. It got to the point, even Democrats were a little like, this is kind of scary that, this guy basically appointed everybody who works in the government, and even they couldn't really say no to the guy.
Right.
And when he kind of got to the end of his presidency, there is questions about whether he was all there. And I know we've had, other presidents where basically, after a stroke, the wife ran the White House. It's looking more and more like we've pretty much had that for 4 years, that it's pretty much been Jill Biden and his son that have been pretty much running the presidency, and his aides and his cabinet and, everything.
It's the
But
team.
it's looking more and more like,
team.
his cabinet.
It's the team.
It's looking more and more like he really wasn't all there this whole time. That, there's a really good chance that, like, the head of the Secret Service was appointed. Basically, they're now saying, oh, this person was appointed by Jill, and I'm sitting there going, why are we just now learning this? And why was the president's wife like suggesting who should be working for the Secret Service? Where were her qualifications for this?
Well, and I'm glad you bring that up, because I mean, this is something that probably not just yourself, but myself and just the various chats we find ourselves in. But, I was like, who is this woman? Because I know everyone said she came from PepsiCo and all, but she was like, she checked all the blocks from before. Like, she was in the Secret Service before. She was like a section or a station.
Yeah.
She did, like, she had the resume for it.
She had the CV for the job.
Yes. And that's
the abilities, maybe not so much.
And I don't know about you, but you would think, I mean, I don't know. You tell me, do you ever remember like someone being appointed as the head of the Secret Service as being like newsworthy, or you would know about it?
Not really. And it's kind of funny.
I don't remember this ever happening.
I don't ever remember the head of the Secret Service. I mean, I will say that obviously it came up after Reagan's assassination attempt. I mean, obviously, and as we all know, that director resigned. I mean, and I think
so so they did resign. That's
yes. The head of the Secret Service.
Okay, we'll get to that
Ronald
next.
Reagan was shot. Did resign, and it was pretty much just. I mean, again, I think I'm going to focus on the kids and trying to educate them. Like, the world was not always like this,
Right. You're right.
When you had a monumental failure of that level, it was assumed you would resign up until the last like 4 to 8 years. It was just assumed. It's like, oh, when are they turning in their resignation? It's like, it was just, if you had a failure of that magnitude on your watch, whether you worked in the military, you worked in the private sector, you worked for Secret Service, I mean, you were just assumed you were going to be quitting, and I can tell you, I was 11 or 12 years old when the last assassination attempt happened. And I've been watching news since I was 8 years old. I mean, my dad considered it a very important thing to watch the State of the Union. I mean, the State of the Union in my house was right up there with the Super Bowl, the World Series, all that stuff. My dad was very much, he never ever told me what to think. My father never ever raised me that you need to be a conservative, or you need to be left wing, or you need to be right wing, or anything. It was always, you need to know how many representatives are in the House. You need to know that there's 2 senators per every state. You need to know who your representative is. You need to know who your senators are. You need to know how the presidency works as far as the election process, that we don't elect by popular vote. He thought that shit was important, and he was like, you should watch historical events. And he always said, you should watch historical events when they're happening so that you know what happened, so that you can make your own determination. Because that way you don't have to rely on somebody else saying, oh, well, the president said this at the State of the Union. And it's like, well, okay, what was the context? What was the tone? Did he really mean that word for word? Was it sarcasm? Well, if you watch it, you actually know.
Yeah.
And I don't think kids today can really understand. It's like, back in the day, something like this happened on this monumental level of a failure. You were just waiting for the resignation to drop. It wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when. And it's a completely insane world that's upside down for people my age now, because it's just like, she's just sitting there like, nah, I ain't gonna resign. And I'm just like, okay, that's an interesting.
And it goes, we can go, and I've said this. I said, even before she appeared yesterday, I said, this is going to be the exact, like, if Lloyd Austin could skate from the
Right.
Afghanistan withdrawal. I said she was going to triple axle her way out of this shit. And
And I think that was my moment where I was like, nobody is ever. I mean, we'd already kind of gotten that where we'd had some CEOs at big businesses, have
yeah,
major fuck ups and they didn't resign, and there had been signs we were going that route. But yeah, when the Afghan withdrawal happened and they were all like mission accomplished, like George W. Bush, I'm just
yeah.
like, yeah, we're done having any sort of accountability. I mean, maybe it happened under Bush with Iraq with the failures there, where nobody paid a price for that.
That's where it started. I mean, well, they did try and hang a lot of shit on General Shinseki when he was.
Yeah, but I mean, when you have an Intel failure of like, oh, they have nukes and this and that, and nobody ever paid a price for that
Yeah.
Intel
How?
failure,
Yeah.
it,
Yeah,
it
well,
could
that's
be the
probably where
same.
it started because I think again, I mean, I go back, you go back, I think it was either 94 or 96 when you had both. I think you had MSNBC and Fox News started in the same year.
Yeah.
Right. That's kind of like the birth of cable news. We kind of had CNN and they kind of had their big coming out moment in the first Gulf War where they became like a major player. But yeah, like the advent of cable news has just turned everything into entertainment and it's everything's covered. Everything's 24 hours. Nothing
Yes.
don't know. You don't need the newspaper for anything anymore unless you just want to.
Yeah.
Everything's on Twitter or X or whatever. Like I
And
talked
that's what's
about this
funny
with
about
Jimmy
X
last
is,
week.
is like
Yeah.
people. It's no joke. News is happening on X or Twitter.
Yep.
I can't
I
call it
can't
X. I
either.
can't do it. I
I
can't.
can't.
I tried.
No.
Everything is breaking on Twitter. I mean, that's the funny thing is my friends will send me news from 4 or 5 or 6 hours ago. I
Mhm.
mean, Biden announced. I mean, here's the kicker: Biden announced he was leaving on Twitter.
Right, right.
That's mind blowing.
Yeah, a minute
I'm like,
after he told his staff. How crazy, allegedly. Like if he's yeah.
I'm still trying to wrap my brain around the fact that the president of the United States
Yep.
announced that he is not running for reelection after locking up the nomination
Yep.
on Twitter.
Yep.
That just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yep.
I mean, it's
I was talking
still,
about this with Jimmy last week. I didn't watch any of the news channels during, once I got that first like post I saw on X with the assassination attempt. I watched it all on that. I just waited for the refreshes and everything, all the
yeah.
accounts throwing things out. I never turned on the news. Like
You after
you
a while,
don't need it.
you learn
You
who the
don't need.
bullshitters are. You learn who the
Yeah.
guys who are lying. You learn who the guys are that are like posting bullshit for likes and views and stuff, and you can just unfollow them or block them or whatever.
Yep.
You figure out who is a good source of information and isn't, and about stuff like live while it's happening. I'm
Yep.
not joking. This is how I found out there was an assassination attempt. I'm literally laying in bed, flipping through my phone, doing what we normally do. We all do is we're watching something, and because we all have ADHD now, and I'm flipping through my phone while something's on TV, and I literally see people talking about this shit. I turned on my TV, and in that amount of time, they were shoving him in the car.
Okay. So you were a little.
That's how
Yeah.
quickly
Yeah.
I knew
Yeah.
that was happening in
Yeah.
breaking news on Twitter. Is that somebody said something, I saw it, turned on my TV, and live, I'm watching them shove him into the car. That's got to be about maybe 30 seconds, if that,
Yeah.
from the actual shooting to me seeing it on Twitter, turning on my TV, and seeing them shove him in the car.
So what was it? What was your initial? Because I know we've had a lot of armchair quarterbacking. I know everyone's kind of had their reactions. What were you thinking when that was
Well,
going on?
ballistically, the first thought I had when I was watching the news, I mean, I like everybody else was turning on the news because it was, and think about this at our age, that's the first news event I've known of in a long, long time that it was on ABC, NBC, CBS, PBS, CNN, Fox News, MSNBC. It's one of the first events I can think of in a long time where a news event locked up almost all of mainstream television. It's been a long time since we've had an event like that.
Mhm.
And it was locked up for like a good 24 hours. The first thought I thought was it had to have been like a little 22 or something. I initially thought with just having the audio and the video of Trump grabbing his ear and all of that, and the sound, the report was very muffled. And I'm like, unless that guy's a good distance away, because I'm picturing this being more like, a really up close, like shot happening. I thought it
Right.
was like somebody at the edge of the stage, somebody ran up because there was so much chaos going on. I never imagined in a million years watching that live that a kid would have been able to have posted up, gotten comfortable, gotten down into a laying position, got his rifle out, got a bead, got a red dot, on where he wants to hit a target, and be able to do all that with a rifle. I never in a million years would have thought that the Secret Service was so incompetent that you would have had somebody post up in such an obvious place where everybody's screaming and looking at him and
Mhm.
get off 4 shots. I never in a million years would have imagined that was physically possible. So I'm thinking this is a kid that, pulled a pea shooter out of his prison wallet and just started blasting at the stage,
Yeah.
thinking, there's no way that this could be an actual sniper rifles type situation. And yeah, never in a
Right.
million years would have thought
Because
that.
this, like, let's be clear. Like, this wasn't Charles Whitman, right? This was
Yeah.
just some fucking dude who,
Yeah.
for all accounts, I mean, if we're buying what's being sold to us, was just some 20-year-old fucking no specific special type of training, no military background, just thought he would.
And for the record, I totally believe that's what happened. I mean, I
Yeah.
almost never ascribe to conspiracy what can be described, what can be explained by just stupidity and
Mhm.
laziness.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, I have a lot of respect for the Secret Service. I have a lot of respect for the people that go out for that line of work. You are putting your life on the line for another human being. It is an admirable thing to do. But at the end of the day, they're government workers like everybody. I mean, I've been a government worker. I've been a federal worker. Um, you know, um, they have a reputation, and I think it's earned in some ways, in some areas. And you do get complacent, and you do get that sort of just routine every day, every day. And the last assassination did happen in 1984, and you get very, very complacent. And honestly, I think that's probably what it came down to is the people. Do we need to cut here?
No, you're good. It's just your video paused a while ago, and now you're just kind of black screen. I don't know what you see, but if you go in that lower left corner,
Lower left corner, it says stop video or mute.
yeah, hit stop video, and then okay, now start.
Start it again.
Yeah,
How's that work?
is he coming back? No, you're black screen. All right. Oh well,
Huh.
no big deal. Yeah. I tend to think like what you're thinking on that. I don't think there's, I know all these people are trying to say, oh, maybe there's a second shooter. Maybe he acted, with maybe this was coordinated. And I get it. There's some weird shit around it, like the 3 alleged, foreign cyber currency bank accounts overseas or whatever. No real social media presence outside of some, weird post he was going to put on Discord about today's my big debut or some shit. But yeah, I mean, it seems to be, fortunately for, President Trump, that it wasn't a very skilled shooter. And, whatever you want to attribute it to being, a
I
miracle.
just think it was luck. I mean, all
Yeah.
honesty, I think it was just sheer unadulterated luck that he turned his head at the last minute. And I think this kid had a bead. And
Yeah, he definitely
had he
did.
not had he not turned his head at that last minute, he probably would have been successful and
Yeah.
having a way different conversation. And I don't care what your politics are. I don't care what your opinions are. I'm fine with everybody. I mean, I'm all
Yep.
good with it. But I mean, I think we can all agree that we can be happy that that kid failed because that would have been.
Well, we should be, right? But is that enough? Because it's not. And I say it's not because like there literal polling of registered Democrat voters that legit a third of them think Trump staged that.
And
Like that's
those
a
people
poll.
just
That's a real
those
poll.
people need to find Jesus. I don't know what to tell them, man. It's like you
But
got to figure something out.
but that's kind of where we're at, Rob, right? Like
It really
even
is.
though we watched it unfold like we just described, we watched the assassination attempt and everything that take place after it unfold live, and then you still have a third of one specific population saying it didn't happen.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. I think you're always going to get that 25 to 33% of conspiracy theory nutballs on both sides, on the right and the left,
Yeah.
that are just completely unhinged. They can't be reached, on either side. And the bottom line is just I'm thank God this kid missed, because I just can't even imagine all hell would break and loose, especially finding out how many failures they were afterwards. You would have had
Yeah.
people on the right convinced that the Secret Service murdered the president.
Oh yeah.
I
That's
mean, flat
that's
out.
right.
You
Yeah.
would have had those people saying that. You would have had those people out there, and they would have had a lot of foundation to stand on with all of the mistakes that were made, all the incompetence, all the misses. It would have been bad. And I just thank God that this kid missed. I mean, however the election turns out, I mean, look, I hope my guy wins and all, but holy crap, would that have just been the absolute worst case scenario of a president in under these circumstances, with this much tension and this much hostility and this much anger, getting shot and killed, under these circumstances, would have absolutely turned the country on its head. And it's already kind of there.
Well, let me just pick apart what you just said. You said you hope your guy wins. Does that mean you don't have a Harris sign in your yard?
I have never in my life had a sign in my yard. I'm not that guy. You know, what in the world is that sound going off?
Yeah, there's all kinds of weird shit going on this one. We're probably being hacked by the
Probably
yeah,
Secret Service.
whatever. Yeah,
Good Lord.
yeah, I hear it as well. I don't know.
Hmm.
But
I think it's my actual
what was
hard
your
drive.
what did you think about that though?
Think
Like,
about the actual assassination attempt.
no. We talked about that, but the fact that one day, Biden's there, and the next day it's just, well, yesterday. I mean, I found out
I
I was doing a different obligation, and I found out because my dad texted my brother and I in our chat together. And I didn't I saw what he said, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't have time to really delve into it, or to see if
Yeah.
it's, getting something from Facebook or some shit.
Him bowing out is seriously, it's just the end
It's
of
just
the
him
most
bowing out. Like, I get that. I figured that was going to happen, 'cause there's just too much pressure. But the fact that it just automatically went to Harris, like, that seems a little odd to me.
well. So to explain, there's reasons for that, and the Democrats really don't have a choice. So number one, there is. I've talked to a few people that I trust know what the hell they're talking about. Number
Okay.
one, Harris is on the ballot of all of the election that's already happened. You got to remember, this is really, by definition, a soft coup. I mean, I'm not going to throw that word around lightly. I'm not going to use it too much on Twitter, because I'm like, people are just over exaggerating it too much. But by definition, this is a soft coup. I mean, when you have an election and you have ballots and you have people voting and you have the votes, and then all of a sudden, without a military being involved, so it's not a coup in the classic sense of
Right.
it's what's called a soft coup, in that it's on paper. It's a paper coup, in that you have the person who didn't win take over. Like, it's selected, not elected.
Yeah.
And what they're able to say is, well, Harris was the vice. She's on the ticket. She's on the, because you got to remember, there's a campaign. It's
Yep.
Biden Harris. So you're
Yep.
really voting for both, and you could argue that both of them got those votes, and that they can argue their whatever it is 1900 votes for the Democratic convention really went to both of them, Biden and Harris. And there's a second problem that the Democrats have. They're stuck with Harris. I mean, I think if the Democrats had their druthers, they would dump her in a heartbeat.
Oh, for
But for these
can't.
two reasons. One being that she was on the ballot with Joe Biden and can get all of those, can argue that she got those votes along with him. So it looks more legitimate. The second problem they have is the laws that are involved with donations to political campaigns. And I'm not going to claim to be an expert here. I'm going to give my
Yeah.
opinion more than anything. But from what I understand, that money can't go to somebody else.
Right.
you know So you're talking what, 330 million, and they had literally just had that huge Hollywood fundraiser with George Clooney, where
Yeah.
George Clooney raised more money at one fundraiser than any other fundraiser ever in the history of the world, and it all went to Joe Biden's campaign.
That's so wild that they were so adamant about supporting him still, though. Doesn't that seem weird?
But they were locked in. They didn't have a choice. I mean, everybody that's saying had he done this a month ago, 2 months ago, is not wrong. The problem is that I believe Joe Biden and his team were hiding how bad he really was. I really do actually believe that. I do actually believe that a lot of Democrats are legitimately surprised by seeing.
And I, with your background, I'm curious what you think on that. Is because I mean, I think everyone's kind of been suspecting.
Oh, I knew he was sundowning. I mean, I knew 4 years ago he was sundowning.
He's just old. And
I mean, he's
like everyone, it happens to everyone. Like, I don't
it does
after that, but it's just like,
does. I went through this with 10 years of my grandfather,
yeah,
and
same.
I saw it, and I knew why they were scheduling things at certain times. I knew why his events were, a certain way. I'm like, the guy's in sundowner. I mean, he's sundowning. He's not good in the morning. It takes you a while to wake up when this all first starts. And you start to kind of fall apart in the evening. It's why they call it sundowning, and it's one of those things that, you can cover it up for quite a while. Obviously, we all saw, until you can't, and then it all comes storming out when Grandpa pees all over the Thanksgiving dinner table, and unfortunately, he decided to do it on national television and just piss all over the turkey.
Yeah, that was insane. What did you think though? Like, I mean, I was curious. Did you watch the entire debate?
I did.
Okay, so I thought like the first half is where he made all of his mistakes, and then somehow randomly, like the second half, I thought he was actually pretty good.
I absolutely. I have to admit, I was like, oh God, this is clearly not going his way.
Right.
But I also was thinking at the time, like, Trump's not doing great either. Thank God.
Not at all. He didn't have to.
Thank God Joe Biden is absolutely shitting himself, because I'm I mean, I thought the whole golf thing was absolutely hilarious, because it took Trump finally going like, let's not behave like children. Behaving like children for 5 minutes.
Yeah, like I don't think Trump answered a single question the entire time I actually
God no. And that's what's hilarious is like people my age, like we used to watch debates and they would have like deep policy questions. About like insanely in-depth strategic stuff. These guys are out there talking about their goddamn golf handicap. Jesus Christ.
That's where we've gotten. But yeah, like the second half, I thought like Biden was actually pretty solid. I just couldn't explain that. Like I had no real, like, I don't get it.
I mean, I can in that, so have you ever had anybody in your family have dementia or any sort of cognitive decline or anything?
Well, that's what I said. Like you talk about, like I watched. This is why I've never said really. I won't say anything negative about Biden when it comes to that, because like he reminds me of my grandfather before he passed. Like at the end of his, like he was just, sometimes he'd be there and then usually he wouldn't, and then it was a slow decline. Like I watched that with my grandfather, and he passed in 2019. So like I've seen this. I think Biden's a little worse off. My grandfather wasn't the president, right? Where he was just my grandfather. So like, yeah, I've seen it, and I don't know. It's just it's been tough to watch, and that's why like I was just talking to my parents about this before I got on with you. Is just we don't need to have people at this stage of life being or running for the fucking president.
Like, unfortunately, the founding fathers did not put a maximum age. They just put the minimum.
I know, they just put the minimum. It's like, man, like we need to. And I was actually surprised because for some reason, I feel like Kamala Harris is younger, but I saw today she's 59. And okay, I'm like, that's kind of like the sweet spot, I think, where I'm not going to entertain anybody above that. Like, think about it from like a CEO perspective of a company. Do you want an 80?
I would say 65 would be about where I would start cutting things off.
Right. That's where it's like, what? Thank you for your service. Please go enjoy the rest of your life in this retirement thing. Like, because that's what you should be doing anyway, I think. Whether you're a president or you're just a normal human being, like you shouldn't be. Why do you want to?
I trust me. I don't understand. It's in my industry too, where we got these nurses that hang on until they're 70, 71. I'm like, I have hobbies. I want to do other shit.
You legit have hobbies. You got shit to do. Go build some cars.
I got shit to do. I'm busy, man. I got things I got to do after work.
I got guns to buy. Like I got a whole.
I've got houses to restore. I've got cars I got to rotate tires on. Man, I got shit I got to do.
Yeah,
I can't imagine these people that are like, I want to work until I drop dead. And I'm like, you're nuts.
Yeah,
I'm like,
no,
I got places I want to visit. I got things I want to do. But
yeah,
what I saw during the debate was, I got the impression that in the second half of the debate, there was more about sort of remembering things and policies from a while ago. And the thing I knew about that I got used to with my grandfather was he could not lay down current memories. He was very, very bad. It was like the newest memories went first. When he
okay,
started declining, so he passed away when he was 96.
okay.
And he was in his mid
Also,
80s when we first started noticing that he was having a few problems.
yeah, probably.
And what I noticed towards the end when he was getting into his late 80s, early 90s is the newest memories were what was going. It's like I remember when we finally did one last tour with my grandfather. He lived in Arizona, where my family all moved to when my sister, had her kids. And we were like, we're going to get grandpa together. We're going to take him to visit the old shrine. None of his friends were still alive. I mean, the guy was in his 90s. I mean, none
Yeah.
of his Shriner friends, all of his World War II buddies were gone. I mean, I can't even imagine what that life must have been like, and it probably didn't help his mental health that there was nobody alive left that he had a life with.
Yeah.
The only person left was my grandmother. And she's still alive, by the way, at 99.
Oh shit. Yeah.
Not
My
kidding.
grandmother is alive at 92, just turned 92. So.
She's still hanging in there. But I mean, I think that helped him, stay sane and everything, having my grandmother there. But when we took him around and we were going to take him up to Pittsburgh, Kansas, where he, spent all of his life pretty much, and take him to visit the old houses. We're going to take him to visit the old Shriner, locations, and just see family members. And we brought, he stayed at my house for a week. And I remember he walked by a map I have of all the places me and my wife have been to in Europe, either together or separately when we both did our time in Europe when we traveled in college. And I gotta tell you, I'm finally getting to your point about the second half of the debate here. He
No, you're
sat
fine.
there and looked at that map of Europe and told me exactly dates and times of exactly where he was in World War II
That's nuts.
for an hour.
That's fucking cool.
He sat there and said, here is where I was on this. And he knew the dates and then would tell me exactly what battle he was involved with in detail.
Yeah, that's cool.
For over an hour.
Cool. Yeah, that's
cool. And he was 100% there. He was 100% there. This is the guy that's been gone for like 4 or 5 years. But at that moment, he had everything. He had all his capacity and he could remember everything. When you start getting into older, more laid down memories, they have an easier time. Those are more deep seated, in the part of the brain that goes the last.
Yeah.
And I think that might have been what was happening there in that second half of that debate is they were going over things that maybe were more deep into his memory that he could, pull out easier.
That makes sense. Yeah, because definitely with the second half portion of it. But that's also, it's kind of wild, but that's why we're talking about this, and then that's why we're also drinking Old Granddad, because that's who we're talking about. Yes.
And Coke.
And Coke, yeah. Not mixing them. I'm not mixing them. No, that is a good point. So that moment and everything that post of that moment, I'm just curious because there's so much more to get to, but just why do you think there was such a like unified, rapid pivot from Biden from that moment? Like, why do you think that was what, like, because
panic, absolute sheer panic. You got to understand, these people have convinced themselves that Donald Trump is the second coming of Hitler. Yeah. I keep asking them to tell me what he did in the first presidency that was like what was Hitler-esque in that first 4 years? Because it's not like we don't have a reference to him being president. He was actually president. Mm-hmm. And you could talk about his bad response to COVID all day long, and I'll sit there and probably agree with you. But if you're going to tell me the guy's Hitler, you should be able to come up with, okay, how?
Yeah.
And the only thing they can come up with was he enforced the border too much. And I'm going, that's the opposite of Hitler. Hitler was not trying to keep them out of the concentration camps. Okay. He was forcing them into trains and moving them inward, not outward. You know, he was not sending them home. You know, I mean, that's the best they can come up with. It was just, oh, he was just so mean to people on the southern border trying to come in illegally. And I'm going, well, one, they're entering the country illegally. So, yeah, okay, not really understanding your point there. Two, when he catches them, he sends them home. That's like the opposite of Hitler.
Yeah, not lining them up and or not doing the whole Chinese internment camps like we did in World
Right.
War. Like none of that was going on. Yeah. Look, I've said this a lot. I thought, I don't think people liked his persona, but in terms of actual, like as an executive of the office, I thought he was he was a really good president.
I
A lot of
thought
good
he did a
things.
halfway decent job, and I did not. I'm going to full disclosure. I did not vote for him in 2016. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I was a very never Trumper kind of guy. I'm an old school Gen X 1980s Republican. He didn't fit my mold. I was not happy about it. I figured my one vote in Missouri didn't matter because Republicans win this state now by a landslide because we went from being a very blue state to very purple to now red as fuck. And I was just like, well, whatever, not having it. And then that all happened during those 4 years, and I'm like, I would crawl over broken glass to vote for this guy, and you would have to shoot me to prevent me from stuffing my ballot into that box. And I'm probably more militant now than I was then.
That's great. What made it that way?
Just how completely unhinged they became after they lost. Just
Yeah.
that they
I think we can tie it
the
all to that moment, I think.
the attitude of that is our office, and that was the attitude they had with under Obama for 8 years. Is
Yep.
and I mean, hell, they wrote books that said permanent majority. I mean, that was I think it was
That is
the
true.
guy from Louisiana that wrote that one.
I'll look it up.
But they truly, truly believed that they had a lifetime permanent majority. And when they didn't get that, especially after spending billions of dollars in free media, getting Trump through the nomination process and getting him
Max Shelley wrote that book.
Max Shelley, there we go. Yeah, the permanent majority. I remember that coming out when Obama was elected. I'll never forget that. And I was just like, you are the most short-sighted motherfuckers I've ever heard of in my fucking
No,
life.
that is a good point because I remember that being something that was kind of discussed as it was. I think Rush Limbaugh talked a lot about it. It was like there's no real path to a Republican presidency again.
And I always thought people like that said that shit were just fucking stupid. So I'm like, you have the most small-minded, small view of history that the pendulum always swings. It always does.
It just may not be in our lifetime, right? Because look at
It may
California.
not be in my lifetime.
Yeah,
It
look
may
at
not be in
California.
history. And it may
California
not be
was
the kind of pendulum swing you predicted.
Yeah.
But things all go right left. I mean,
it's happening right now, though,
decadence-
right? Like it's literally happening. Look what's happened
Oh yeah.
in the last 4 months.
Month.
Just, I mean, the
Look at,
shift
I mean,
from
you've
what the
got
Republican
guys
Party
actually
was
pumping
pushed
their
as.
fist on the baseball field and
Yeah,
putting
right.
their fist up like they're Trump.
Yes.
That doesn't happen 4 years ago.
Oh, not at all. Not
There's
at all.
no
I mean,
fucking
Braxton
way
talked about
an
it. Last
MLB
year they were
player-
promoting BLM and fucking trans lives and all this shit. And now they're doing
There
this.
is no fucking way a baseball player raises his fist and says fight, fight, fight during a baseball game 4 years ago.
Yesterday. Like it was multiple teams. The first game back from the break. Well, like they just came out of the All-Star break. Everyone saw it because everyone was on the break, right? And no, you're 100% right. But the fact that like Republicans used to be like labeled as the pro-war, the war hawk party, and it's totally shifted in that regard. Like Democrats are the party of war right now.
Oh yeah.
Like
they're the party of
Ukraine,
big government. They're the party of.
They love having this proxy war with fucking Russia. They love the fact that they don't have to make any case to the American people because they're still pretending to operate under this fucking post 9/11 bullshit. And it's so fucking tiring, man. It's
do the Ukrainians, do you think, not to switch subjects and do a hard left turn, but do you think the Ukrainians know they're being just set up as cannon fodder to drain the Russian artillery dry?
I honestly, man, I remember when the war started because I was still living in Napa. I was sitting in the hot tub and I watched on my phone and I remember remember the whole the Ghost of Kiv, like that fucking plane.
Oh God,
Yeah.
Jesus, yeah.
Like I remember
Yeah, didn't
that thing
Adam Kinzinger
unfolding, and
fall for
then I
that
remember
shit?
reading like the incident on like the submarine or some shit, like showing up to an island or something and like refusing to
Oh
surrender.
yeah,
Yeah, like,
surrender or die, and they were
yeah,
just
surrender to
like,
like all
send
this
it. It was
shit.
all fake. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I remember, like, I go back to those moments. I'm like, man, how wild would it be? How wild would it be if Ukraine could legit hold their own with Russia? Because that's all you were fed the first few weeks, and then
Yes.
you know, and now I had my own um, thoughts of the Russian military leading up to that moment because I've experienced this stuff just from just being around it, but I don't think, and I don't think to this day that Russia's trying to win because they don't want to. They're not trying to ruin what they're fighting for, the resources, right? Like if Russia wants to defeat Ukraine, if that's the goal to just play like a numbers game, it's not hard. Like it's just not.
Yeah.
Like, numbers are not hard in war at the end of the day. Like you either have the numbers or you don't. But what they're fighting for is the return to their country historically, the resources that they want. So they're not trying to just destroy all of that because then what would be the point? But
Well,
to
see,
your
I keep hearing that
question,
Ukraine has got all of this farmland, and that's where we got all of our wheat and this and that. Okay, what other resources does Ukraine have that Russia's decided that they're wanting
well,
to
they want
sacrifice
Crimea. They want the
300,000 of their
ports again.
citizens?
They want Crimea. They want the port. They want the restore
Okay.
like the restoration of like their historical borders. I mean, I've made the equivocation of like, say California was like, you know what, fuck this. We're going to secede and we're not going to be part of the United States anymore. And the United States wanted California back because why not? Like that's a big thing. And what does California have? They have all of
Yeah.
our basic our agricultural production. Like that's a kind of a big thing. Plus, historically, yeah, California matters to the United States. So, and I thought when you take it for what you want, but when Tucker Carlson went and spoke with Putin, and Putin gave like this 45-minute uninterrupted history lesson of the country of Russia, like, man, can you imagine if anyone in our country could do the exact same thing in the United States? And this dude's
Yeah.
laying out, and I'm not, look, whatever you think about Vladimir Putin and Russia, that's on you. Good. I don't care. I'm not making a point for you to like the man or not. I'm just saying what was able to convey was what that specific country means to his country and why he's going through
He
with.
was at least able to articulate his position.
Right. And that is what we are failing to do right now, because that's what's not being made to the American people. No one in our government is making and articulating the case to the American people on why our money has to go unchecked as they step over another homeless person on their way to the fucking voting office to the Capitol in DC to
That's
send
the
more
biggest
money to
problem they
Ukraine.
have
Like, no,
is
it is
is
like
that yeah,
there's
we're
no
we're
case
suffering
made for
here and it's
right.
spend all the money over there, and it's like
It's embarrassing, dude. I don't know when the last time you've been to DC. I don't know if you've ever been, but it's embarrassing, man. Like it really is.
I have been to DC when I was 12 on the class trip like everybody does, but I have not been
That's a
back
long
since.
time, my friend. And I will tell
Yeah.
you, you would be unfortunately, you would be very disappointed.
No, I wouldn't because
Very
I went in the
disappointed.
80s, and if you remember the 80s at all,
I was
yeah,
growing up,
watch
but
a few movies from the 80s. I
yeah.
always make this point. Escape from New York was shot in
RoboCop.
St. Louis unaltered. I'm not joking. Escape from New York. Watch it. That was downtown St. Louis unaltered, folks. They didn't have to build a set. They just went to downtown St. Louis.
80s were wild.
I mean, the 80s and really the late 70s too,
Yeah.
but the 80s and the 70s were a wild ass time. And trust me, if you think crime is out of control now in DC, nah, it was straight up banana
It's
balls
bad, man.
in
I
the
don't know if you
80s.
follow that account that I usually I'll repost a lot of his stuff. I think it's DC News Alert or whatever. It's just one dude who just grew up in DC and he does his own reporting on everything because no one reports on this shit. It's just or DC Raw News. I don't know. I'll find it. But Man, I said this the other day, like, I'm so tired of this man's account. And I didn't mean it to be insulting, but it's just like, it's depressing when you see the shit.
You're tired of the news coming out that's depressing. Yeah, not so much the
Right?
account, but yeah,
Yes.
you're
It's
tired of
like,
all the bad
man, and
news.
no one gives a shit. Like, this is DC. This is our nation's capital. This should be
Yeah.
the shining pillar
Crown
example of
jewel.
everything. And yes, it should be. And it just
Yep.
isn't, man.
No.
I mean, my nine, no, yeah, about a year, like in and out of that city before I moved. Like, man, I'm watching the craziest shit, dude. Like, dudes jumping in front of the fucking metro trains, people chasing around each other with fucking knives in parks. Like, I've
I'm
seen
not gonna lie,
it
this
every
really
day.
does remind me of the 70s and
It's
the 80s. I mean, the funny thing is that we had such a laid back attitude in the 80s about all that kind of shit too. It's like we knew crime was out of control. We literally made movies joking about how bad the crime was back in
RoboCop.
the 80s. I
Like,
mean, there's I think it was Home Alone too that they made a joke about him being lost in New York, and he was like, "Oh, Kevin's gonna get murdered or something." I think there's a
mm.
line in there about all that, like you're going out
And
and doing all
Trump's
the
in that.
crime.
Isn't Trump? No, he's in the first one. Yeah.
No, he's in the second one.
Second one. Okay. Yeah, that's right.
He's in Home Alone too. Yeah,
Yeah.
Lost in New York. Yeah.
He was younger than me in that movie. Isn't that wild? That's fucking.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we just, me and my wife just watched the original Ghostbusters movie over the
Oh,
weekend
nice.
at a marathon. It was like they make reference to all the crime, back. I think the first movie was '84,
Yep.
but people forget how bad crime was in the '80s. And I mean, is it bad now? Yeah, absolutely is. I mean, it's gone back, but people forget what we had to do to get crime under control. I mean, it had to get so bad that the Republicans took over the House in 1992 for the first time in 50 years. And people forget that the Democrats had control of the House for 50 years, folks.
Yep.
I mean, for those of you who don't
94
study
is when
history,
Newt Gingrich and them came in,
yep,
right? Yep.
the contract with America, 1992, or was it 92 or
No.
94? I think
92.
it might have been
I might have been
94.
94. Yeah, I think
Might
it
have
was
been 94.
the second
But I mean, with
portion.
that came, all the crime bills where you got, three strikes and you're out. You got, people pushing for things to be felonies and not misdemeanors. You got mandatory sentencing because judges were like, oh, you raped and killed this woman. We're going to give you 2 months. They were like, no, it's like you're going to get, a felony is going to be this many years, and the judge can't, oh, I feel bad for you. We're going to, give you a year or two, which was happening. That
Yeah.
was one of the reasons that crime was out of control. Is they did a study and they were like, look, 1 or 2% of the criminal population, not the entire population, but only 1 or 2% of the criminal population is actually the problem. And so if we do three strikes, you're out. In other words, we give you 3 bites at the apple to be a felon and you get 3 felonies. Yeah, you got to do life. It was actually a good idea because it was just that small group of criminals that were actually committing most of the violence. And as soon as they did all that, guess what? Crime went down. And we had this 20-year period of relatively declining crime, and still to this day, if you look at, violent crime statistics, and yes, I know there's some shenanigans with the FBI and all that stuff, crime is still relatively low compared to what I grew up with in the 70s and 80s. And is it going the wrong direction? Absolutely. And, I think all those problems are fixable if we get prosecutors in that are actually going to, actually prosecute people, actually ask for long sentences for violent crimes. I mean, we have the answers. We've done it before. It's just a matter of, are we going to get sick enough of this yet to where we're going to do something about it? Because at the end of the day, voters are going to vote the way they want to vote. And you get what you vote for. So if you're going to vote for the one side that is going to put in prosecutors that are going to basically let people go, you're going to get the results of that. If you're going to elect a prosecutor that is going to protect you, and I mean, 'cause that's your one job. The police force, the prosecutor's office, the judges, everybody involved in the judicial system has one job: protect the good guys from the bad guys. This is the bad guys. They want to hurt you. Our job is to police arrest them. They then bring us the criminal. They bring us the facts of the case. We prosecute that, and then we put them away in a jail where they can't hurt you. And hopefully, that time will give them time to reflect and decide if that was a bad enough punishment to not want to do it again. That is a deterrent. We've stopped doing that, and weirdly, throughout history of the last 10,000 years, we've learned that, oh, we go right back to behaving badly. People will do what they can get away with. And that's, until that changes, DC is going to be a problem.
Yeah.
You talk about the crown jewel being DC. Honestly, I think, yeah, you're right. Our nation's capital should be a crown jewel. But I mean, Southern California should be our Venice. I mean, it should be our Monaco. I mean, there's absolutely no reason that Southern California, which really was, in all honesty, it was our Monaco. There is absolutely no reason that that amount of money and beautiful weather and
Yeah.
coastline and all of that should not have been our crown jewel. There is one and only reason that it has fallen into a shit smeared stain. And it's because the people in charge are not going to do anything about it. And until the people of California have had enough,
Well, they
and they
don't
say,
vote, and I've talked about this enough on this podcast. Like if you look at the people in terms of numbers who turn out between the state of California and the state of Florida, Florida has virtually half the population of California, but inversely twice the amount of voters who show up.
yeah,
Republicans in California just stop voting; they don't even show up.
yeah. And
So
I think
you
that
give
was
them, they
by
deserve it.
design. I think it was by design.
Because there's
They,
tons of them out there, especially in Northern California. That's where I was at for 6 years. Like,
yeah.
there's a lot of Republicans and just state of Jefferson people up there in the hills of Northern California and Placer County, all specifically. Like, they are not fans of Gavin Newsom, but from everything I can tell, they just don't show up and vote.
And I think it's from just the years and years and years of Democrat one, Democrat one, Democrat one. Once you have that sort of culture like Massachusetts does,
Yeah.
the people who don't vote that way just, okay, what's the point? What's the point? I got to leave work early to go lose. You know, I mean, it doesn't take that. It doesn't take a lot of election cycles of losing to have people give up. And if you don't think that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, but they don't seem to play by the same rules, if you don't think those two parties have the playbook for what it takes to I wouldn't say disenfranchise, it's the wrong word, to de-incentivize
Yeah.
the other side to vote in that state, then you're an idiot. If you don't think that California had a model for how they got people so beaten down that they are like, why am I going to go vote just to lose? Like you said, I mean, what is it? 20 California, like 25% show up to vote.
Yeah, but it was wild though, because it wasn't like California was a Republican stronghold. Like Reagan came from there. Like go back and look at Harris as an early, like up and coming politician as a prosecutor in Oakland. Like she was honestly a centrist and kind of was pro death penalty. She had a lot of conservative, what we would call conservative policies that she championed. And,
Yeah.
as she became more and more politically, I guess, I don't know. God, I can't remember. I can't think of the fucking word. But as she became more politically inclined, she shifted to become more of an opportunist, and that's why, like, I think her biggest weakness is she doesn't really have any convictions or policy positions. She just does what's popular, and it
Which is
started
going to
out
be
by
most
being,
politicians today. I mean, that makes
yeah.
a
But I
good
mean, like,
transition to
she's the
her.
definition of one, right? Like, she's in her 20s as a prosecutor in Oakland. Like,
Yeah.
Republicans were kind of still popular. Like it was like the Republicans were on their way out, but their policies were still popular. So she was, again, like I said, that's literally what Gabbard attacked her in 2020 on, about like most of the shit that she was like. You would have thought Harris was actually in the wrong primary, because a lot of the
Yep.
positions she was being attacked for were actually pro-Republican ones, because that's what was popular in California at the time. But then as she got more opportunistic, everything changed. Now she's not a pro-death penalty. Now she's not against drug convictions, and now like everyone's okay with everyone smoking weed and all this bullshit. And it's like, yeah, I mean, that's kind of what's happened with California over the last 30
I
years.
do love that she admitted that she smoked weed in college after putting out his people in prison.
Yeah, right.
Just blows my mind. I'm like, I mean, how she is the most. I mean, I kind of love that the Democrats are saddled with her, because, and they are. I mean, they really are saddled with her. I mean,
Yeah.
for logistical reasons, it's going to look really bad to leapfrog her. I think. Well, to start off, I think the Democrats know that they're. I never want to predict 100%. I think the Democrats know that they're probably going to lose the presidency. I don't think Biden being forced out was necessarily all about we've got to win the presidency. As much as they, hey, this at least gives us a better hope that, you know, it's not 100% loss. I think they still know it's a 99% loss,
Yeah,
more
I
than
mean,
likely.
uh,
But
uh,
they were worried more about down ballots. What they
uh,
were really starting to panic about was that Joe Biden was so bad that they were starting to lose elections on paper, you know,
right,
on
yeah,
polling
no, that's fair.
that they considered locks. You know,
Well,
these
and
this
that's
is
what I
this is a
think. Like,
lock.
I just think it's so late in the campaign that the Democrats know now's not the time to throw their best out there, right? Like, wait for 28. Trump can't run for reelection then.
Oh yeah, they know they
Bring
got to
out
eat
the
this one.
candidates. Yeah,
Yeah,
then they can bring out their candidates. And if they somehow manage to win or something happens to somehow keep Trump out, then it's just a plus. But
yeah.
nothing's gonna surprise me, man. Like if you and I
No, no.
wake
I mean,
up on
that's the thing
election
is
morning post one and we're like, all right, who won?
yeah.
There's not a
No,
single
I
result that
am
I'm going to be
not one of these
surprised about
people
this
that's
time.
like Trump's like a landslide win. He's going to automatically lock it up. I don't think people really understand. He hasn't lost his unlikability. Like he hasn't lost. It's not like he all of a sudden has a popularity of 60%.
Yeah.
Trump's popularity is right around 45%, and we're hoping he can pick up six more just out of, you know, the
Well,
other one
but
just
let's go
sucks as
back to the
bad.
baseball thing though, because I think maybe people were kind of reserved from the popularity thing, and
Oh,
now
it's absolutely
now they're
shifted.
not
I
ashamed. Yeah, now they're
just like
not
you
like
talked about
trying to
time,
hide it. Yeah.
just like you talked about time for the Democrats, there really isn't the time for the Republicans. I believe it'll keep shifting after this election, absolutely, but I don't think there is the same there's the same amount of time for the Democrats to get their shit together as there is for Republicans to be able to shift Trump's
Yeah.
image. And although, like I said, there is absolutely an image shift on his that is going way more popular, and like we said, 4 years ago, these guys are not doing Trump things on the MLB diamond. You know, it's just not
No, not at
happening.
all. Yeah.
I think the biggest dam that is broken is I don't think 4 years ago anybody would have admitted that they were supporting Trump publicly. And
Yeah.
now
And we see it like
that
Elon
stigma is
text
kind of gone.
egos. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. You see all these texts. Like, I mean, Musk, like the guy's the biggest account. That's he owns fucking X, Twitter, whatever. And
Yeah.
he's he's out there doing the fucking memes and he's pushing the same shit that a lot of us in our stupid fucking autistic like circle do. But also he committed $45 million a month. I mean, that's a ton of money.
I mean, that is the definition of putting your nuts on the table.
Yeah,
I
he's all in
mean,
on it, and I think
yeah.
he's right though with the other his friends. He's talking about it. It was a post either the yesterday or the day before where he's like this: the smartest people he knows in Silicon Valley have shifted to be pro-Trump because they know that's what's best for them, but also what's best for you know a pro-business, I guess, a pro-business not community, but like just for them to be set up long term in the United States specifically, because this is still the best place for them to do business, but they need the best president in terms of who's in power. Because, you get rid of Biden, you put Harris in there, like it's a continuation of things that isn't favorable to them.
Yeah. And I think I know a lot of business people are still supporting, you know, the Biden Harris ticket, or
Yeah,
and it's going to be
of
interesting
course.
how they're going to handle the whole vice presidency thing. It's going to be like I said, what a time to be alive. I mean,
That's
I
true. It's fucking wild. This is my
I
daughter's
keep saying
first
that to
election,
myself.
and
I'm
I'm
like,
like, you need to go get registered to vote. You got a wild election. My first election was Bush Gore, and I voted for fucking Ralph Nader. That's what I did as a stupid 19-year-old.
we all, hey, you know, we all voted for, we all have that one that we were just like, what was I
Yep,
thinking?
that
You
was
know,
my
I voted
first
for Ross
one, man.
Perot. I mean, I can't
No,
say
no, my
shit.
dad did too. Like I thought, actually, Ross Perot was a great vote. The problem with Ross Perot is it gave us Bill Clinton.
Yeah, and he was nuts. You know, if I had to put my state of the race in my own mind of where it's at, I would say Trump is probably at 52 to 55, somewhere in there. I would say Harris is probably I would say there's probably in the states that matter, I would say it's probably a 5 point race right now. I don't think it really changed the numbers too much. I think the Democrats saved themselves from absolutely getting like Reagan slaughtered, like an 84 kind of slaughter.
Yeah.
by switching, this late. Yeah, I mean, look, is it a horrible, horrible timing for them? Absolutely. Is it the absolute worst case scenario? Maybe. I mean, it would have been probably worse to have it happen like after the convention,
Yeah, well, I
I
mean, that's
mean,
the thing though. Like, she still hasn't. I mean, just because she's taking, Biden's position on the ballot, it's still up to the delegates.
and that's the thing is there's a
They
lot
don't
of places
have to accept
saying
her.
they might not be able to change the name on the ballot. It might still have to say um,
Biden Harris.
Biden Harris, in some states because like I know Ohio made a special consideration
Wait, is Ohio
for
a real place?
uh depends. Is it a Thursday?
Had to say it.
Maybe on the weekends.
Had to say it.
Was it Ohio or was it Iowa? I think it was Ohio that the Democrats didn't do what they were supposed to do, didn't register or whatever, and like literally Ohio Republicans had to be like, okay, we'll do it for you. We'll extend the
Oh,
deadline
that
or whatever.
sounds totally like an Iowa thing, but I'm not sure, to be honest.
Yeah, it might have been Iowa. But I mean, I don't know if they can change the name on that ballot. I know that Wisconsin's another state where they might not be able to change the name on the ballot. I think there's like Nevada, I think is another one. I think there's 3 states where they can't
Wow.
really do much. Like the state's timeline has passed. The states don't give a fuck when your convention is.
Right, right,
The
right.
Democrats decided they wanted as late a convention as humanly possible
Yeah, because
for whatever reason, whether it was
well,
to be
we
close
see
to the
why.
election.
We
Yeah.
see why.
Well,
Can you
but
imagine if they would have had the fucking convention a week before the Republican one?
oh fuck, Jesus
Or like a
Christ.
week before the first debate or something? Like, yeah, because then what?
Yeah.
But no, they did it on purpose because, and this goes into whether you believe it or not. Like, a lot of people have predicted that, hey, they were always going to not have Biden be the nominee. They
I
just
have I
find a
have seen
moment.
people that I respect their opinions say that the people involved knew how bad Biden was and basically were wanting this debate to just have him fall on his face and then they would have the ammunition they needed to get him out.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I did not realize that Obama and Biden had that negative a relationship. I mean, I knew they didn't get along. I knew they weren't tight buds and all that kind of stuff. I did not realize there was like actual animosity and
Yeah.
hate
Well, I
between those
think
two
I mean,
guys.
like I said, it goes back to if you remember when Obama was running the first time, when he was on the debate stage next to Biden, Biden essentially. I mean, Biden did all of the typical racist Biden things that he always did in regards to him. He basically called him gay. Like he yeah, Biden and Obama, I don't think were ever friends. And then I think Obama was forced to take Biden as his running mate.
Oh, he was absolutely told by
Yeah.
the Democratic
So
Party, like, look, we need somebody like
yeah.
this as to balance you out.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people forget that Bill Clinton flat out said, hey, this guy should be getting our coffee.
Yeah. Did
You
yes.
remember that one?
I absolutely yes. Yes, he did. And remove race from it. I think what Clinton was trying to say was like, here's some junior senator who hasn't done shit, and all of a sudden he makes a speech at the 2004 DNC, and all of a sudden he's propelled to, hey, he's the presumptive
To
nominee.
running for president in 2008.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's what the point he was making. But you can't make these jokes and these comments anymore because everything's
No,
offensive.
not at all. Yeah, and it was one of those things of just like I don't know if people really realize like how much Biden and Obama did not like each other, and maybe this was a way of Obama getting back at him for whatever reason that he was just like,
No, it probably is, but I hate seeing it play out like this because Biden's essentially defenseless because what we've already talked about. He's just too old. Like he can't.
I just hate seeing it play out like this because it just makes my country look like a bunch of bumbling morons.
Also that
I
because
mean,
you know what? This is what like I wanted to troll his little post yesterday of dropping out, but then I looked at it. And I didn't really care about the message. I thought, okay, I read the story this morning when I woke up, like, oh, Biden and his senior advisors worked late into the hours crafting his speech. And I read the speech. And I'm like, this is what took you guys. Like, but then I looked, you know what I saw? I looked at the impressions on X and I saw 379 million views, Rob. And
damn.
I don't know what the most popular fucking post ever on that site is, but that's got to be pretty fucking high up there. And I was like, I'm not gonna like, I'm not.
You know what's funny
I'm
is
not
the
trolling
last
this
time I
one.
remember somebody saying what the most popular tweet ever was that goddamn selfie at the Oscars.
What was that?
It was Ellen DeGeneres and a bunch of them at the Oscars
Oh
like
yeah,
8 years
man.
ago.
Okay, yeah. But no,
Yeah,
the reason I didn't troll it, I saw it, I was like, it blew my mind because most of his posts get like between 10 to 12 million, right? Which
yeah,
means most people aren't paying attention. More people that live in this country saw that. So,
yeah,
hey, I know it's not because we already know most of the people in this country aren't on X. It's the fact that the fucking world, like you already pointed out, is watching and it's
yeah.
making us look fucking.
And it doesn't look good.
It doesn't, man. It looks fucking dumb. And that's why I didn't troll that post because I was like, I'm not going to contribute this because at the end of the day, I'm an American first, foremost. And I want the best whoever's in charge. Like I just do. I'm still that
And I
type
think
of
that's
American.
my biggest reason for supporting Trump is look, no matter how you feel about the guy, he wants to be liked. He wants to be popular.
Yeah.
He wants people to think good. He wants people to think positive things of him.
Right.
I don't think Biden gives a shit. I don't think Kamala Harris gives a shit if you like her or not. He wants to be liked. He wants to be popular. He wants to get the views. And you know what? If that selfishness is what it takes for him to do what's best for my country because he wants people to like him, I'm fine with that.
Mhm.
It still means he's going to do the right thing and do what it takes for
Yeah. I mean, we already
people
talked.
to like him
We talked
and to
about
be
this in his
popular.
first term. It's like, what did he do that you thought was like so Hitler-esque? And like, no, I thought he was a good president, especially behind the scenes when he wasn't in front of a camera. I thought he was legitimately doing what was best for the United States.
Yes.
He wasn't trying to appease foreign leaders. He wasn't trying to like, oh, do all the shit that we have problems with all the other presidents. Like I thought he was a legit executive and he did act with America's best interest.
And he is still the first president in my lifetime that did not start a new war.
That's also true. Very
He's
true.
the
And
first,
that's
I
the other
mean,
thing. Like they keep trying to make it like, oh, if Trump's president, we're gonna like, are you guys looking around? Are you
yeah,
looking around at what's going on under your guy, your team,
yeah,
your squad, whatever the fuck you want to call each other? Like October 7th happened, right? All this shit with fucking Ukraine's happened. All this other stuff with the threats from Iran have happened. Like all the base attacks from Iran have happened. You know what happened when Iran fucked around the first time? What happened?
we killed their guy.
And what did
Dead in a
Trump?
doornail.
Right, Trump with the most iconic tweet of all time, with the most low res American flag. But that was it. That's all he did,
Yeah,
right? And what happened immediately after? Iran stopped and shut the fuck up
yeah,
because they still know, yeah, they have money, yeah, they have numbers, yeah, they have a military, yeah, they have all this shit. But at the end of the day, they ain't quite there.
no,
And that's why they won't really do anything other than these little like, paper cuts. That's what they're good at. They're good at paper cuts. They're good at antagonizing. They're not out there to try and fucking like look, it took them 8 years to fucking fight a stalemate with fucking Iraq, in
yeah.
the 80s. Okay, so and I
I
don't want
do
any of this.
believe,
Let me just be. I don't want. I want that Trump guy. I want that. I don't want any more fucking wars. I'm so over it and tired of it. I lived my entire adult years through them. I've been through them multiple times. I'm done with it, man. Like I just because
yeah.
none of it actually benefits our country at all. I will die on my fucking hill on that. And it doesn't benefit
It
me. It
doesn't seem
doesn't.
like any conflicts that we've gotten involved with seem to benefit us. I can
No,
understand, oh, it benefited an ally, it did this, it did that. I don't give a shit anymore.
I don't
I
either,
don't
man.
care.
I just care about my
I want
country.
to worry
Show
about
up on my
us.
shores and let's fucking fight. But other than that, I just want to fucking live in my fucking little with where's Frank? Oh, Frank just walked out. Just like you, man. I just want to hang out with my fucking cat and chill. That's all I want to do.
Yep.
Just want
And
to
not
chill,
have a
man.
president constantly starting new war fronts.
No, I don't. And then, and that's the only thing that really bothered me with fucking Vance, because I think he was saying how, like, oh, I'm trying to keep my fellow Marines out of wars that are unnecessary. And then he gets on some interview during the convention about, like, oh, if we're going to attack Iran, it has to be a knockout blow, not the. I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? Come on. I thought we would just talk. I thought we were just done with this shit.
I think he was referencing the kill shot on that one, where he talked about that. That's how I took it. Was like, hey, when we had our
Maybe
guy,
you're right.
Iran fucked around and found out.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. And
That's
I
how
hope
I
you
took it.
are. I just want someone to put our own country's interests at first hand, right? And I just want our capital to be something that we can actually be proud about. I don't want more money going to some foreign fucking dump when I'm not even asking for all of it. Give me like a percentage dedicated to the citizens of this country who are really on hard fucking times. And if you want to make it sound like, oh, that sounds like some socialist bull, fucking call it what it is, then say it. Fine. That'll be my socialist bullshit hill to die on. But at the end of the day, I want my country to be the most proper, strong, and the people taken care of. And I don't want to step over fucking homeless people. I don't want to go to my second favorite city in this planet at one point, San Francisco, and walk over fucking needles and shit to go to a fucking Giants game. Like, I don't want to
Yep.
do that. Like, I shouldn't have to. Like, these are basic fucking things. And I'm tired of the spin. Just address the fucking problems and you can clean it up. And stop sending all the money that could go to actually doing those things in your own fucking country for some fucking place that no one out here cares about.
Well, if I want to give you a little bit of hope, as
I
somebody
would
who's a
love
little
some
bit older
hope,
than
Rob,
you,
because I'm getting fired up and I don't want to be fired up right now. I just want to
the
chill.
60s and 70s, the trash of the late 60s and 70s and all the garbage that we saw there and the whole piece. I kind of compare it to now the back then they said hippies and all that kind of stuff. And today it's woke. It's just a different term for the same
Yeah.
thing. Well, that gave birth to the 80s. You know, I mean, it just did.
Crime.
It did. It
Yeah.
just did. And the 80s gave birth to people being sick of the crime and taking care of it. Everything is a pendulum. I have
Yeah.
seen so many swings in my life that I've just kind of gotten to the point where in life, when I see this kind of stuff going on, I just sort of exhale and just go, ah, this too shall pass. This will eventually lead to the next step of things going the other direction. And people eventually get sick of it. It is, I guess, my version of, hard times, breed hard men, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's true. I mean, that is what happened. You had, people getting completely out of control in the 70s of, we need more welfare, we need more this, we need more that, softer crime, we need all these things. And oh, that poor, murderer, why do we have to give him the death penalty? And people got sick of it. And people got sick of like people trashing the United States. They got sick of the anti-war movement that got way out of control of people burning the flag and spitting on Vietnam vets and all that stuff. And they went, I don't like that, and I'm going to go the other direction. And we wound up having a decade of the 80s of the most flag waving pro United States. Everything about our culture in the 80s was just fucking awesome. It just was the best ever.
Hollywood, like, right? Like, look at
Hollywood was
just
making pro-America
obnoxious.
movies, tough guy movies, action hero movies.
Yeah, it's
It was
obnoxious.
great.
Pro-American.
I mean, it was a very positive time to be alive because people were sick of negative, and I think people are getting sick of the negative.
That's a great
I
point.
think people are just sick of it and they're done with it. Speaking of transition, the state of the entertainment industry.
Oh God. Man,
I mean, I've noticed that, you're talking about like you feel like the culture is shifting, and it absolutely is. Exactly what I told people would happen for the last 10 years is happening, and it's the first sort of, the egg cracking open and the birth of a different direction to go. Because I would say the biggest example, having just watched the Ghostbusters movie this weekend, Lady Ghostbusters came out in 2016.
no
Okay. 2016. We're 2024 now. That movie bombed.
Yeah.
It is considered the pinnacle of woke stupidity.
Yep.
By the way, I don't want to take up time explaining the story. The story behind how that movie got made is fucking hilarious, by the way.
Oh, where can I read it?
Was that?
Where can I read that?
I think there's actually an internet documentary on how that got made. Long story short, the original cast was trying to make a third movie, and Harvey Weinstein happened and a whole bunch of other things happened. And the director of Lady Ghostbusters had basically built this reputation of taking what were regularly, like men-led movies, like spy movies and stuff like that, and putting a woman in the main role. And that kind of became what he was known as. And through basically shenanigans, underhanded dealings, some ugliness and everything else, he basically wound up being able to steal this movie from the original guys who did Ghostbusters. And Sony just sort of went, we're going to take this opportunity to hand this over to this guy over here, and we're gonna go in a different direction and make this a feminist empowerment movie. And the story behind how that happened is actually quite funny. but I mean, that was 2016. We're
Yeah.
now 2024. Those movies are not hitting,
No, no,
you
no.
know, I
I
mean,
mean, I think where it started was, I mean, Top Gun Maverick.
Top Gun Maverick was a great example of people
It
all of a
was
sudden
fucking
shifting and going, oh,
incredible.
wait,
Literally one of my all-time favorite fucking, like everything about that movie was just
yes,
fucking incredible. And I was
you
just like,
know,
and I'm sitting there in the theater with a fucking mask on at the time because I was in California, like when it came
yeah.
out, because it was like what, June 2020, I think, or something 21. Like it was still like we were in mask world. And I was just like, what the fuck? This
It
movie's
was
incredible.
it's one of those movies that it was a sign of the culture is shifting.
Yeah.
You know,
And I hear that's
this is
what's going
what
on with Twisters. I haven't seen it yet, but I hear the same thing. I don't know.
I'm hearing the same things about that. It's like people are voting with their dollar bills,
Yep.
and you know, just like people keep joking about how much more money can Disney lose. Well, they'll find out. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
if they want to keep making movies that lose money and
Yeah.
destroy two of the largest franchises ever to exist, sure, go ahead and do it. It's your franchise, you bought it. I'm a big believer in capitalism. If that's what
Yep.
you want to do with it, go for it.
Yep.
But I want to give some hope to kids out there that are like, man, this sucks. And look, it has. You know, the last 8 years have been really bad. Nobody's had been having fun with it. Um, but having been through one of these times before, back in the '70s and transitioning into the '80s, man, it sure feels like that again. It's starting to feel like, I don't know. Do you remember are you old enough to remember the Ronald Reagan line "Morning in America" again?
No. I mean, I know
I
it
got to tell you,
reading it through
the
school, but I wasn't old enough to
you
actually hear it in
cannot
context.
fathom the sort of hope and joy and feeling of electing Reagan in 1980. And I was only 7 years old, you know, but it felt like it was different. It was just like, we're back, baby. You know, it was
We
like,
are so back.
we are so back.
We are
It
so
really did feel that way. And this is before the internet. This is before you had to collectively make a country feel that way
yeah.
without them being able to communicate together, you know?
That would be pretty
And it was an amazing time because, we went from this malaise and gas rationing and
yeah.
food shortages. And I mean, the '70s were not a fun time, I mean, my mom, we got paid once a month because my dad worked for the government, and we got paid once a month. And it was once a month we went to the dollar bread store, and we went to Food for Less and bought discount. I mean, everything we bought was generic versions of, what other kids got at the grocery store. And that was how it was until like the mid '80s. I mean, it was we were poor, and it was a hard time to grow up. But man, I'm telling you, when the '80s kicked in, and it was just like you just knew things were turning around, and they did. You know, all of a sudden, people were waving flags, and sporting events were. I mean, it was a totally different time, and you could feel it, and it
So
feels like that is what is happening right now with entertainment and culture and politics.
do
It
you
feels like people are finally, after maybe 20 years, have gone, you know let's try something different. I don't really love that.
do you think that still happens if Harris somehow wins?
I definitely think that would sort of pump the brakes on it. Absolutely. Do I feel like it would stop it? No. Do I feel like it would delay it? Yeah. you know
If it doesn't stop it
but
though, maybe she gets credit for it, and then
well, here's the thing though. Just like, we're talking about a pendulum swing,
yeah,
all I think that does is delay the pendulum swing, or make the pendulum swing much more violent when it happens.
yeah, that's true.
I mean, that's the unfortunate thing is, the reason that I like the American system of politics is we don't have wild swings, and they designed it that way. We have two parties that up until recently were relatively close to each other. I mean, they were niggling differences between the two, not really big differences. Yeah, there are more differences now. Yeah, they're more further apart, but it was shades of gray up until recently. And we don't have big wild swings like they do in Europe. And one of the
Right.
reasons that Europe falls into fascism and communism back and forth is they are allowed to have these things get too out of control. Like if Harris won, okay, fine. It delays whatever pendulum swing happens for 3 years, but that pendulum swing is going to be more violent and more ugly and go more to the right than it would have had you chosen to have the pendulum swing before it got completely out of hand. The reason Europe is swinging so violently out of hand is they're doing exactly what they always do, and they're doing it right now. A third of France voted for Le Pen. The vast majority of France voted for Le Pen.
Yeah.
Because they have 5 parties or
Yeah.
3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever the fuck Europe does.
Yeah,
They're all fucked up.
Yeah.
You know, they have like 8 billion parties. So they have these really extreme left-wing parties and really extreme right-wing parties. And what happens is that you have parties that get together. What happened with Le Pen was the 2 liberal parties, the moderate one and the extreme one, got together and it's like, we're going to fuck these motherfuckers out of any policy positions. We're going to absolutely rape our own constitution and we're going to fuck over this party because we don't like them, because this is what the rural honky ass white motherfuckers who live out in the middle of nowhere in France do. And we don't want these people to even have one chair, not one. So we're going to make sure that we get together, we plot this, we change the rules, and they did, to make sure that not a single Le Pen party person gets a single seat of power. Guess what the fuck is going to happen when they finally do get power?
Yeah.
Because they're going to. Eventually, French people are going to get sick of being raped by an immigrant, illegal immigrant. They're going to get sick of the crime. They're going to get sick of, you know, the stabbings. They're going to get sick of everything that has been happening, the deterioration of their society, the deterioration of their country, which is happening.
Yep.
They're finally because Le Pen started with like a 5% of the vote.
Oh yeah,
She got the vast majority, and everybody assumed that they were going to sweep into power and this and that. The 2 parties went, hey, we're going to go into our private little room, we're going to change the rules, and we're going to fuck you out of even 1 seat. That's extreme. The French government, the 2 left-wing parties took a very extreme position and said, not only are we going to prevent Le Pen from taking whatever their version of the presidency is, their leadership role, we're not going to allow a single one of her members of the party to have a single seat and a single voice, even though they have the majority.
Wow.
Democracy my ass. But again, these people are so short-sighted because they're like, ha ha ha, we won.
Right.
People who do that kind of shit do not study history and do not study history books. Because what always happens is, and we've had several cycles of it in Europe in the last 100 years, is you push so extreme and so oppressive and so brutal in this sort of behavior that when a Le Pen type party does take power, they're going to fuck your shit up. Yep. They're not going to want to get along and let's all try and pass somebody this, that. They're going to do what you just did, but worse, because there's always escalation.
Yeah,
you know,
it's a great
they did the same thing in the EU with the UK. You know, they had an election and they wound up, you know, changing the rules and fucking, you know, those people out of any power, and not like, I'm going to take my toys and go home. I'm not going to share. Well, again, guess what happens when that party winds up getting power? They're going to be pissed off and they're going to want revenge, you know? And people wonder why Europe keeps switching violently from one side to the other. And we wind up having, you know, 2 world wars and all this other stuff. It's like, well, did you read the history books of how those happened? I mean, if you haven't studied how Hitler rose to power, the people who keep using the word Hitler over and over and over again,
they have no fucking clue who
they have no fucking clue how he actually rose to power, and that you should learn from that and not do it again. You know, don't oppress a group of people so much that when that group of people finally does take power, they're going to fuck your shit up. You know, treat everybody with respect, treat everybody with dignity, treat everybody in your country as an equal, even when you win.
Yeah.
You know, and the Republicans should do that. The Democrats should do that. The Le Pen party should do that. That's how government should work, is you should view it as when you win, you are representing 100% of the people now, not the 33% that voted for you, or in our case, 51%. You should represent everybody and treat them all as your citizens and try and make your country the best you can be. But we don't do that, unfortunately. It's like, I won, ha, 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 I'm going to take all my Lincoln Logs and go home. Well, in France, they didn't even win. They lost, and they're still like, hey, I can conspire with this group of people and really fuck you over. And they're the majority. They're the ones who got over like 33% or whatever it was. They got the majority of votes, and yet they're not going to have a single House seat.
That's fucking
That's
wild.
going to have repercussions whether you like it or not. You may feel good and get a big chubby.
Yeah,
over
it's because of what you said. Those people aren't going away. They'll be back
no.
in 2 years
And
when they do this
the
again.
thing is you may get some big power chubby over being able to like take over, hey, we were able to conspire and get over on you. Ha ha ha. That's okay. You made your bed. It's going to be bad, when this all pans out. I hope you're ready for that retribution because it's going to be bad. And I wish people didn't do it. I wish that wasn't human nature, but it just unfortunately is.
I think it's exacerbated now with the social media era where everybody's kind
Oh,
of
absolutely. Yeah.
prisoner of the moment, right? Like nobody's really short or nobody's long-sighted anymore. Everybody's like, yep, whatever.
No, everybody's about what's right here, right now.
Right
in
now,
this
got to win
30
today.
seconds.
Got to win today and do what's best for me. Like nothing, yeah, because we're not even living in that moment anymore where it's like, what's actually best for this country, right?
No.
Because I just told you, we can go back to what I just said 20 minutes ago. Like I am all about the preservation of this country's superiority, its dominance, its power, it's all of that. The American legacy is all I truly, really, honestly care about. And I want the people in the country to be the best, most well taken care of, most prosperous, all of that. That's what I want. I want this country to be an example. And I don't want it to just be fucking an afterthought or stuff from, 200 years ago. Like it should be now. Like every capital, every major city you go to, like we just talk, you talk about movies being made about St. Louis, right? Like everyone knows the name St. Louis, whether it's from sports or otherwise. Like, but okay, well, why should that city be known for what it's actually known for outside of sports teams? Like it's known for violence.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Yeah.
It's an awful thing. Like no
Yep.
city, the city should be what we talked about, the crown jewels, right? And then at the bare minimum, if we can't do it all, we should at least be able to do our nation's capital. We can't even do that.
Yeah, our main cities are big cities of every state has a big city,
Yep.
Salt Lake City, Dallas, Texas, everything. And yeah, your big city should be your crown jewel. It should be beautiful. It should be gorgeous. It'd be prosperous. It is your example to the world of what you can be. It's like here's what we are. Here's Texas. Here's Dallas, Texas. This is what, you should be seeing and representing. And yeah, I mean, yeah, we have Kansas City, but nobody gives a shit about them. I mean,
I'm
come
sensing
on.
some local animosity here.
It's half in Kansas anyway. Nobody gives a fuck. Fuck those people. Everybody associates like the big city in Missouri is St. Louis. I mean, it just is. And you're not wrong. It's a crime-ridden shithole, and it shouldn't be. I mean, my city, the city that I've adopted, that I moved to, should not be known for being the number one crime destination in the United States, and it's been run by Democrats for the last 150 years. And it should not be the first thing you think of. You should be thinking of Boeing or, whatever, you should
I
be
don't know if you
thinking
want
of
to think about Boeing right now.
well, true. Yeah, that's a good point. But you should be thinking of its industrial complex. You should be thinking of, boy, I wish, Elon Musk had moved one of his headquarters to St. Louis. That would have been nice. But Texas is taking the crown of being the next California. So, it's going to go there. I would have liked to have been St. Louis. I mean, but what do we offer anybody? What is St. Louis offering any corporation that wants to move its headquarters here? I'll give you a story. AT&T's headquarters was here in St. Louis. You know what we fucking did? We banned his kids from going to the good school here. We banned him from going to the big private club here because you're not from here. You're not from St. Louis. You're not one of us. And guess what he did? He moved his headquarters.
Okay, where did he move him to?
God, I think Atlanta. I think I want to maybe actually Texas. Of course, because everybody moves their shit to Texas. I mean, but yeah, I mean, it's like we had the AT&T headquarters here, and what do? Oh, we're gonna make sure he doesn't want to be here. I mean, yeah, congratulations, good job there. Politicians of St. Louis, excellent work. Yeah,
They're the same everywhere, man.
yeah.
All right, transition. All right, let's move on to the story of the day, right? And when I say story of the day, for all of you who will find this podcast from Rob and I in the year 2760, I don't know. It is July 22nd. It's 2024. And I don't even know if I'm saying her name right, but Kim Cheetle, whatever, the director of the Secret Service, appeared before Congress today.
I'm going to be honest with you. I just keep picturing Don Cheadle.
That's what I keep saying. Yeah,
I
it's
just
not spelled
every
the
time I
same
say
though.
his
Like,
name,
yeah.
I'm like, oh, the guy from like.
Man, I would love if Don
Marvel?
Cheadle was up there in front. He'd be like, "I don't know what the fuck is going on," and because I only picture him with the British accent, even though I think he may even actually be from St. Louis. Is he from St. Louis?
I know he's American. Yeah, I know
Yeah,
he's
he's
American. But
American. I think
yeah,
he's
I
from.
kind
He's
of think of him as
from.
the guy from Ocean's 11 all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah, but I think he's actually from a Midwest city. Maybe it's
Yeah, he is.
either Kentucky or St. Louis. I don't know, but anyway, yeah, no. So she was less than inspiring, huh?
Yeah. So
I
for
don't know
the
how much you
final lightning round
saw.
here,
Yeah, I
the
don't
final
know.
lightning round of like the day's story. So I did follow that a little bit today on the Twitters, because that's where you're going to get your breaking news apparently now.
Yeah, that's where everyone.
That honest to God, somebody compared it to another like congressional hearing. I think the one where all of the campus presidents were like, "Yeah, we don't really care about Jews getting killed on our campus." We're like that was that bad. Like they were like, "It's that bad." And I've got to think at this point that it almost feels like somebody has told her not to step down for whatever reason, for political reasons of like, yeah, go ahead. Like, look, it's your job to eat this, like you're going to have to eat this for a couple weeks until we fire you. And that's just what you're going to have to do.
No, but she's not getting
And
fired though. I said this. This I don't know. I know you and I don't see everything each other says, but I said this earlier. I said, let me scroll to it. I've got it. This is just Austin and the Afghanistan withdrawal all over again. Show up for your shaming, return to office, await the next gig. That's all it is.
yeah,
She's sitting there, she's taking it, she's not answering anything. There's no real repercussion. She's gonna deal with her 24-hour news cycle. She's gonna get bashed. No one's gonna like her. But you know what? Tomorrow will come. Something else will come up. She's in the middle of like the most crazy, as you've already laid out, fucking presidential cycle in our country's history. She's gonna be forgotten, and no one's gonna give a shit. And she's not going to
yeah.
have to answer to anything. And like whatever she is asked to answer is going to not even be a blip because it won't matter. And
Do you think if Trump wins, do you think he's going to be like, look into
he'll
that shit?
fire her for fucking sure. Yeah. But that goes to your point though. Is she going to maybe be fired on her own? I don't think she will be. I know you're
No,
saying,
I
hey,
think I do think she's
here.
going to have to be forced out. In today's world, nobody quits anymore and all that stuff.
No,
I
you're
will
right.
say
But I
this.
also I was going to respond to this. Christina Wong made a post and I was going to respond and then I just deleted it. But I was just like, someone's going to get fired. I don't think it's going to be her. I think they'll find someone who was already on their way out, who may be responsible for the fucking field office in Pennsylvania, and
Yeah.
maybe they'll be the
Well, they
one.
already fired two cops that had permission to be there, but didn't have somebody else's permission to be there. I think they were looking for anybody to just, we got to fire somebody.
Well, I
But
don't
they
want to see
relocated or
local
something.
PD fired, like whatever, yeah, and I
Yeah.
get it. There's a lot of the burden that should have been placed on local PD because that's who augments the Secret Service in a lot of places like this. Especially people need to understand, like he's former President Trump. He's not the
Yeah.
president. He's not getting the every
And
resource.
while we're having this conversation, I literally had this conversation with my wife the other night because I'm like, it is the weirdest time in history right now because there's never been another time where you could refer to both candidates as president.
Yeah,
It's a very, very weird thing.
Now both as former president.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, now both are former president, but it was very, very weird to have an election where both guys are being called president because you keep that title. It's like, President Trump, he was president. It was very, very weird to like, okay, two people are running against each other because it hasn't happened since what, like 1890 something.
Oh fuck if I know. I mean,
yeah, I think there's only been one other time that a previous president has run again and won. I think it's only happened one other time where a president
that shit would have probably happened all the time back then. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's only happened one other time where a president lost and then ran again and then won.
Yeah, I would say if it has happened, which I'm sure it has, I would for sure. The fucking 1800s are wild. Like this shit,
Yeah.
it was all brand new. But no, like man, I've seen every and I did think my biggest takeaway is both sides are pissed. You don't usually see
Yeah.
that. You didn't see that with the Afghan withdrawal. There was a lot of Democrat lawmakers who were trying to cover for Lloyd Austin or just
Yeah.
kind of throw him softballs. Both parties are legit pissed, and I think the only reason they're both pissed is because they're both kind of beholden to this organization and
Yeah.
whether
They're the ones who are going
power.
to be guarding us.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
who I thought was the best was is it Paulina? I think I just fucking like I thought. God, I can't remember her fucking name. Let me pull this up because I want to actually give her the credit because she made a great point at the end.
AOC actually asked a decent question.
AOC
I
did
was
a great
stunned.
question about the AR-15. That's right. She's great.
I
Like,
was
why do you
stunned.
have a perimeter that's within fucking the kill range of something like that? No, she's 100% right. Um, where is it?
But I love how everybody's usually like, well, it's within range of an AR-15. I'm like, okay, let me introduce you to 338 Lapua Magnum.
Yeah.
I mean, no offense, but using the perimeter of a varmint round like 5.56 is kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they were in the perimeter, and what's amazing is, I will give her credit for this. She actually had a reasonable definition of range for an AR-15 of 450 to 600 yards, and I was
Yeah.
like,
No,
holy crap.
She had good information from her staff
I
today.
was like, whoever wrote that for actually knows what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah.
An
No,
effective range. She actually used the term effective range.
it is wild, and I will be honest when I say this. Like, there are moments where AOC is actually very, very good.
Lucid. Yeah.
There are moments. There's a lot of times when she's left to be extemporaneous and she's a little off the rails. But
I'll give Trump credit for this on the subject of the Secret Service too. Is he came out hard while people like myself, and I was very critical of the agents that I saw on television. I didn't think it looked particularly professional. But I give him credit for, like, he came out hard and not even in a light way. He came out 100% in defense of his Secret Service agents.
Well,
they were up there on the stage with him saying,
that was
look,
his legit team, though.
Yeah.
Everybody else.
I mean, he's like, look, these people put their life on the line. They threw themselves in front of me. I have no problem with any.
They did the right thing, and that's all right. Hold on, let me. Okay, so her name was Rep. Anna Paulina Luna. I believe she's a congresswoman from Florida, but yeah, she was the one I thought today was incredible. It was like she basically caught the director perjuring herself, and she's like, "Look, I asked that we bring perjury charges against you," and she did go on to mention like, none of us here bipartisanly feel safe with you at the charge. Like, we all feel we're kind of sitting ducks, and you're the exact type of person we have to get out of Washington. And I'm happy to do my part to do it. And I thought that was fucking incredible.
That's baller.
Yeah, but it's bipartisan, right? And then to kind of go back to what you were saying, I don't know how many people understand this, but like, and I'm not even sure if this is the case you're making, but I think one of the big things that people made an issue was because, yes, he's right. He should be grateful to his team. Like, they're surrounding him. They're doing their best to put themselves in a full perimeter around the guy. Trump is a large man. He's not a small guy. Like, there's not a lot of people that are that size. And then I saw a lot of critiques on, like, they're just surrounding him. And it's like, okay, that's exactly what you're supposed to do. Okay.
Right.
Surrounding him. The odds of any sort of like fatal shot that are available to anybody who's out there at that moment are super slim, because the only thing you can probably do is get a headshot. And we've already seen that that's just not likely, because heads move, bullets move and win. Like, there's a lot of fucking things, but they're surrounding him. They have 360 security of him physically. And at that point, they're trying to find a place to get him off, right?
Yeah.
There's not just like the whole crowd is surrounding this entire stage. You don't just have like a designated, hey, let's run over here. Now, you can sit there and pick that apart all you want, but in that moment, I thought they did an incredible job. The people specifically surrounding him, his team that were there, they did what they were supposed to do.
I will 100% defer to Brink. He is the expert on this. I am not. I am literally looking at it as a civilian, just looking at it going, that did not look impressive to me. The issues I had were, one, and again, I hate calling her out because I know she's probably living the worst life right now, but the one overweight agent that couldn't get her gun back in her holster. And yes, I understand.
Yeah, but that wasn't the people on those aren't the people I'm talking about. I'm
Yeah,
talking
but
about
that
specifically the
was my
one.
one big issue is just like you have these agents that are not physically capable of guarding him because they're not tall enough. Trump is like what 6'4"?
Well, I don't know if he's that tall, but he's not short.
He's not short. And
Yeah, he's a big guy. He's a big guy.
why do you have an agent who's 5'2" guarding a guy who's 6 foot whatever? And
Fair question.
I'm not gonna lie, it did not look good when you then on the same day that Trump is nearly assassinated, and you have all of these short female agents that are the ones guarding him. On the same day, we have video of one of the prosecutors that's going after him who has Secret Service protection. And oh, by the way, his 3 guards were all 6'8", bodybuilding dudes, and one of them was clearly carrying a subgun,
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute. Oh, and then you see the Secret Service agent that we're talking about, Don Cheadle. She came in today, and the video clearly shows her Secret Service agents are all 6'5", 6'6", 6'7",
No, these are all fair.
250 pounds.
I have nothing for you, and I'm not here to. I don't fucking work for them, but no,
So
just you
why
as a
are we
civilian
having
acknowledging that. I'm with you 100%.
and Oompa Loompa guarding one of what has got to be
Yeah.
probably one of those prime targets in the history of the Secret Service?
Yep.
No,
I agree. I just think like there's just certain things that don't need to be I call it downsourcing, right? We're downsourcing for.
well, I think Brink made the best point. He's like, look, it's not the individual agents that you really should be mad at, and he's 100% right. He's like, they're not the ones that got themselves assigned to Trump. They're not the ones who screwed up, watching the rooftops. It was all top down fuck ups, and I think he's 100% right on that.
And she's adamant that she is the best person for the job. She said it. She said today, I am the best person. She said, I am the best person to run the Secret Service.
Kids, if you have a goal in life, have the goal of being that confident.
Seriously,
confidence can take you a long way in life. And apparently,
it goes back to what you said though. Like we used to, like you go back to the fucking Reagan assassination you talked about, where the person resigned. Like no one resigns anymore.
No. Well, I think honestly, just like we talked about, when did this historically happen in the first time? I think the first time where big people realized they could outlive a crisis was Bill Clinton. Where he just went, "Hey, I ain't quitting. Yeah, you caught me getting a BJ, whatever. I don't care." He was just like, I'll just not quit and see where this goes. Once we gave up on shame, and once we gave up on that, because that was one of the biggest deals in my history that I know, my personal history of watching things happen, of people were just like, there's no way in hell this guy is going to survive this. And he was just like, fuck it, we ball.
Yeah.
And
ball he did.
And ball he did. Right on her dress.
Right into reelection. Yeah. Right into reelection. Or was that 98?
I think it was his second campaign, but it was just him just flat out going like, you can't make me leave.
But it was also like he was so adamantly like not even accepting it. He was just like, I did not have sexual relations with them.
Oh yeah, but when he came out and like the DNA results came back, and it was just like, we got you.
That would be the other thing. Like it would be one thing if he like was just like, okay, but no, he didn't do that. He straight up was like, that didn't happen. It's like, bro, it happened. It's like, did not.
Bro, we got DNA.
Did not happen. Didn't happen.
Yeah. So, I think that because I grew up with that and I grew up in that time, like the whole, like, how sycophantal the press is to the Democrats and how they were to Biden. I'm like, I've just kind of got used to it. I'm like, that's how it was in the 90s. Even Ronald Reagan, as popular as he was, still was not popular with the press. He still got railroaded by the press. As popular as he was with American citizens, he was still not popular with the press. Neither was George Herbert Walker Bush.
Yeah, but that's a question. Maybe you know this better than me because I don't. You're a little older, a little wiser. But what is the media fascination with the fucking Democrat Party? I don't get it.
It comes
because they had power for so long.
It comes from the history of the idea of, you got to remember, journalism used to be a really blue collar job. It's only in the last 30, 40 years that it's become an elitist job that dumbasses who buy their way into Ivy League schools take, because it got this air of, especially after Watergate, it got this air of being ooh, you're in the press. Ooh, that's a prestigious. It wasn't that way up until the 70s, maybe.
Yeah.
That it was really more of a blue collar,
Crack
gritty
stuff. That's
alcoholics
true.
job, you know,
Because
and
they
they always
exposed
saw themselves
Watergate,
as
they
the little guy.
exposed the fucking, it was Watergate, it was the Vietnam War. Like, yeah, I can see
But the
that.
press always saw themselves as the little guy. We're the working class. And the Democrats were always the party of selling themselves as being the party of the working class
That's
and all
not
that stuff
anymore.
because, oh, we're going
That's
to give you
big.
stuff.
There's that pendulum
It's
we talked about.
the Republicans are always the adults. They're always the parent. It's like, eat your vegetables, save your money, do this, do that. The Democrats are the ones out there going, we'll take your money, we'll put in Social Security. It'll be waiting for you there at the end at like 1%. You'll get that. It'll be great. The Republicans are always the ones of like, hey, we need to be tough on crime because crime breeds bad environments and bad neighborhoods and bad things happen to kids and schools decline and all that stuff. They have to be the one that comes in and goes, take your medicine, And yes, they're right. Yes, historically, Republicans are more of the adults in the room. But it's hard to sell the average American, especially now today, as people can become more and more less mature, even at their
Yeah.
later ages, to like, hey, you should save for retirement. Hey, you shouldn't, go buy the cool hot car with go blow all your lottery winnings in 2 days. They were always having to be the ones of like, hey, if we do this, historically, this will go in a bad direction. And the Democrats are like, fuck it, let's go. They're always the fun party of like, hey, blow it now and enjoy the time. And isn't this great? And they always got the reputation of being the party of the working class, which, it's easy to be the good. It's like being in a divorced family. And the Republicans had to be the mom and the Democrats got to be the dad. They're like, we're going to go out for ice cream and, we're going to go out and do this. And you got to do all
On
the
the
fun stuff
weekend.
because you are getting only visitation. And while mom had to be like, take your medicine,
Yeah.
eat your vegetables, don't finish your whole plate or you don't get dessert,
Analogy. Yeah.
That's always been how I've analyzed it is the Democrats are always this working class, that kind of thing. And the journalists always kind of acclimated to that of like, they're looking out for the little guy, without looking at the big picture of like, actually the harder things to do are better for you in the long run, but that's hard to sell.
Yeah.
That's my opinion of how journalists wound up so connected to the Democratic Party is it's always
It's
been like
weird
they're the
though
party of
how,
the working class.
but it's kind of weird how they always have these momentary shifts though, and we just saw the latest when they all kind of coalesced behind like, hey, we got to push Biden out, and then they kind of all for a little bit kind of coalesced behind Trump post assassination attempt.
Yeah.
That may have been more
It's
ratings than anything, but
yeah, I think without Musk buying Twitter, I think all of this goes very differently. I really, I really, I really do feel like that event happening, all of us losers getting our accounts back. I mean, I was banned for like what, 2 years.
and
I
now
mean,
we get paid.
that's what kills me, dude. It absolutely kills me. I mean,
Bro, like
Oilfield
when I
Rando.
saw your screenshot the other day, I was like, man, that's all I want. Let me get to that point. But I thought, because I'm not getting, I mean, I'm getting paid, but I'm not getting what you're getting. And I think it's
I mean, Oilfield Rando's making like, 15, 2 grand. And it's like, I love his point. It's like, number one, I consider that money, it could go away tomorrow. I don't care. It's
yeah,
just like,
right,
I'm still
yeah,
just going to have fun with it.
yeah. I'm still
But
gonna
I
fucking
love his
stick
point
it.
of like, all of us were getting banned right and left. And now we're getting
Now we're
paid
getting paid.
to do the same thing. It absolutely boggles my mind that
It's
I'm like,
so
I
great.
mean, I was first on Twitter in 2013. My
Yeah,
wife got me
I
on
got
there.
on 2009, the first account. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's hilarious. But no, it's
And I'm
right.
sitting there going, I
But
have
it's
been
even funnier
banned.
for you though, because you're like, I'm gonna go buy another gun, and like you legit
Yeah.
actually paid them out. You're getting paid that much per month to basically go do that, which is pretty funny.
Yeah. I'm just like, I'm just going to go buy a new gun, or I mean, I'm going to have to save up the rest of them for taxes because I'm like, at this point, I'm like, I should be saving these for taxes. So everything else that's coming after this is just going to
Yeah,
go into the savings account for,
that's
the tax
hilarious.
man later. Got to
Yeah.
make Biden happy. But yeah, I thought it was a hilarious point he made of just like, we were all getting banned nonstop not that long ago. And it's like, not only are we not getting banned, I haven't been banned since I got my account back. I haven't even gotten a warning. You know, all these people that are posting like their warnings or, oh, I got a
Yeah.
timeout or this, that. I don't know. I must be on some special list that I can't get banned or I can't get kicked or something because.
I don't know because like even I mean I see you're not that bad. You're a little profane from time to time, but you don't say like
Yeah,
out
true.
crazy shit. Like you don't. I've never really understood why you got banned to begin with. Like certain people I can name off while I in our circle. Like I know why you got banned.
Oh, what's hilarious is the stuff I got banned for was absolutely hilarious. I mean, I could at least come up with like, look, there's a couple of tweets out there that I could definitely have been justified in thinking, okay, I should have gotten banned for that one. But the ones I got banned for were hilarious. I got banned one time. One of my bans was for Anna Navarro, who's on the View.
Yep.
Somebody wrote on the beach, "Happy birthday, Anna," and an exclamation point. It looked like "Happy birthday, anal."
You
And
got
I made
banned
the
for
joke,
that?
and I got banned for saying "happy anal." I got banned for that, for just simply quote tweeting and saying "happy anal." That's all I said, and I caught
I
a
had to
permit.
report that though. That's the problem. Like it's just this fucking reporting it. Because remember that went through for a while. Like you got these mass report
Oh,
bullshit.
I'm sure the same losers who were mass reporting then are still mass reporting now just to get some sense of satisfaction out of it. Like, I reported them, ha ha ha. But I'm just like, get a life, dude. I think if I think back in the 11 years I've been on there, I think I may have sent one person in for a complaint, and it's like because they were like basically gonna do a mass shooting or something, or I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
that person probably shouldn't have an account or something because it was like
Yeah.
something violent. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty bad.
I would say the
Um,
same. I would say the same. Yeah. There's just certain things you come across where you're like, whoa.
Ooh, ee,
Yeah.
yeah, dude, yeah,
I don't
no,
know,
killing
man.
people is
And
bad.
it might
Don't
be
do that.
serious. And yeah. And I at least they're usually it's like I also comfort myself by saying, like, all right, I'm not the only person that noticed this. So
Yeah. But I mean, it was a great point he made. It was just like, holy crap! It's like we've been through so many bans, and it's like not only are we not getting banned anymore, we're getting paid to now say these things, and I just love that. I just love how hilarious that is.
it is. It is a fantastic that it is wild to me. Like because I all I have is a savings account and I look at it every two
Well,
weeks.
what's hilarious is it took like 8 months for people to convince me to sign up for Blue because
Oh,
I
really?
wouldn't do it. Yeah,
Oh,
no, I
well, you
wouldn't
for
do
sure
it.
got to because your account's so big, man. You have to.
Well, I didn't want to. I didn't. It wasn't something I was interested in. I was just like, whatever. I mean, I make enough now with my
Free
stuff.
guns, free money. Come on.
Well, a friend of mine that I really trusted was just like, it's not that bad a process to like get verified. It's not that
Yeah.
bad.
Everyone
And
knows
she
who
was
you are
like,
anyway. It's not like
and
it's
you'll at least make what it costs a month.
exactly. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'll try it then. And I think the first one I ever got was like 350 or something like that. And it just kind of went up from there.
You know what's
It
funny though? I'll tell you what's funny is once they put that into play, I was like, man, I hope I can get to that point because you got to get like 5 million, right? Over 3 months.
Yeah.
And in my previous account, the one that got banned, I could never get to that. And so I get banned in like, what was it? I think it was either late October or early November of last year. And then when I came back, I wasn't really posting much because I was moving. And then I moved and I posted that picture of my nightstand that got like 27 million views.
Oh my God, I
Yeah,
remember that
and
one. That
so
was actually
instantly on this
awesome.
brand new account, I'm instantly like automatically eligible, and I'm like, this is
I
fucking
loved that. That was, and
this is
it
hilarious.
is hilarious what goes viral. I mean,
Yeah,
I got to be
right,
honest with you.
exactly. Like a fucking
Like,
nightstand with a gun, a fucking Home Depot box, and like a cup of wine. Like that's what
yeah,
gets 27 million views, really? Okay.
I tell people this all the time because I get people that text me or DM me or whatever. It was like, well, how do you do this? How do you do that? I'm like, I got to be honest with you. I just post whatever seems. My account is just my random squirrel
Yeah,
brain,
yeah, for
just
sure.
whatever is entered my brain at that particular moment. And
Yeah,
if you're chasing,
your account's pretty fucking authentic. You can tell when people are bullshitting or
that's the thing is I tell
faking
people,
it.
I'm like, look, the one thing I can tell you is don't try and chase that.
Yeah, don't do
Like,
the
don't
engagement
don't
part.
try and be what you think somebody else wants you to be or what you think the algorithm wants you to be or whatever, because people can smell that desperation on you in five
Yep.
seconds, in a heartbeat. And number two, it's not easy to fake it all the time. Just be who you're going to be, and it'll come. It just happens. and don't try. The second you try, I'm going to make this tweet go viral. No, it's never going to happen, because guess what? I put out shit that I think is fucking hilarious, and it gets like
Yes.
2 views.
Yeah.
You know, I'll put out the dumbest fart joke on the planet, 11 million views.
Yeah.
You don't know, man. There's no way you'll ever know of what's going
And
to
that's
hit.
what I was saying.
Like
Like between you and Demp, I think have both gone through so many accounts, but you both managed to rebuild them fairly fucking quickly and back to the same levels, if not higher.
What's funny is I got all those old accounts back. So
yeah, I know. But that's what's funny. Like, because like, but you and Demp though, I'm just like, you guys are like the examples of people who just you're not doing. There's no formula, right? You guys
because I
you're
enjoy
just
it.
yourselves.
I love fighting. I love fighting. I absolutely enjoy fighting. I love it. And
Yeah.
I would not change anything of what that experience has been for 11 years. I wouldn't. I would take all the bans. I would take all the suspensions, everything else, because guess what? I had an absolute blast doing it. I was laughing every time they would get me banned. I would laugh my fucking ass off, because I would just go make another account, and like you said, within like a month, it was at 10,000 or whatever.
Yeah,
I enjoyed the process. I enjoyed fighting. I enjoyed getting in people's faces. I enjoyed making jokes.
I think that's
And
what we talked about the first time you were on. Like it was probably literally 2 years ago because I was still in
yeah,
California. But yeah, it was just like you were just talking about like then if I get banned and whatever, I don't care. I'll get it back to that point at some point.
I'll just make another one, and I'll
Yeah,
enjoy
just
it
make
while I
another
do it,
one.
and I don't care. You're
Yeah.
making more fun for me, basically.
I know.
You know,
And that was funny because that appearance, I told you, that is still to this day the most downloaded, most watched, everything. And it was
we'll see
because
how this one does now. It's a
you
blank
upset
screen.
somebody. I don't remember. What was that chick's name? Is she a Washington Post reporter that you upset around that time?
The Vice chick.
Is she Vice?
Was it the Vice journalist that went after us?
I don't. The female. I don't know what her name is. It Taylor? Tyler?
Oh, Taylor Lorenz.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
came out after you were on, like 2 or 3 weeks later, and I remember.
Oh yeah.
But I remember though, like it was probably October or November when they found your appearance on my on this, and that just like sent them into. And I was just like, I started getting all these emails from YouTube and the dashboard account where everywhere I post the audio, and I was just like, what is going on?
It's like back to the example of like why I enjoy Twitter so much. I loved that. I have the exact opposite reaction most people do. Like most people would see that and think Taylor Lorenz targeted him and be angry as hell. I laughed for hours over that. I was like, oh my God, I actually got a New York Times, Washington Post journalist to give a shit about a cat account.
Yeah.
For the love of God, how can you not laugh
you were doing the fear the floof shit. Well, and then my funniest one ever was like when Joe Kent was on prior to him running, and someone like some fucking reporter went after him and wrote an account, but they watched the podcast with me and they wrote like fledgling podcast. It's like, oh, I love it.
I love that shit. I'm just like, go ahead.
Like, you actually think I do this to get fucking no, I do this to talk to my fucking friends. Like this is
exactly. That's the thing is for me, Twitter is I'm talking to my friends.
Yeah, and that's all I'm doing. This is me. I give you like a video and an audio version of me. Like basically, this is our fucking phone call. You get to listen and watch.
I will literally make jokes on Twitter that are aimed at one person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude, I really love it, and I really love what it's evolved into, and I hope it stays this way because, but that is the transition. The transition, and we can probably end it on this discussion, but like with that video I sent you, it's kind of sad, like when you think about it. But maybe that's
you can tell in that. So what we're talking about, folks, is Musk did an interview where he talked about his son being quote dead. Which his son is not dead. His son just transitioned to being female, unfortunately.
Yep.
And he's like, it's like my son is dead. And folks, look at his eyes. Look at. I mean, he's not that good an actor, man.
No,
I mean, Elon Musk is a lot of things. He's not an actor.
He is
absolutely that is a
that's
guy.
His kid. That's his son. That's his heir.
That's his child.
Yes.
And he is not wrong that an outside entity came into his home through the internet. Whether it was TikTok, whether it was Instagram, whether it was any of these things, You know, I don't know. I don't have kids, folks. I don't know if I would be able to keep my kids off the internet. I would certainly try. Um, but he's hurt, and I
Oh yeah.
mean, you wondered where this inspiration for him to go, just to change from being a quiet entrepreneur to just going ham into
A
the
man
social
a
the
man with
social soup that we are in.
literally unlimited resources to fight it.
And you know, he's a
Literally,
guy that, you know, you guys targeted my son, and you know,
yeah,
okay, I'm going to do my best to turn this cultural absolute shithole around, you
yeah.
know, however I can do that. And maybe it'll work, maybe it won't.
Mhm.
Um,
But he's
but it
committed, and
is
that's what matters.
funny that the left had every single avenue of communication. They had, I mean, Google, Instagram,
Facebook,
Twitter.
all of
There
it.
wasn't a social media they didn't control and
Nope,
have an
all of it.
absolute death grip on.
Yep.
And still, right now, you only have this one social media outlet, and it's only been in Musk's hand for what, 2 years?
Yeah, give or
About
take.
maybe a year or two ago.
Yeah, I
And
remember still having
you
conversations
already have
with
the
my
owner
friends
of
like this
Meta
is.
out there talking about how cool Trump is.
Yeah, but
I mean, all of a
dude,
sudden,
bro, I
the
remember
owner
having
of
conversations
Facebook,
like, I don't think he's gonna actually buy it. I think it was a publicity stunt. Like I remember
yeah,
saying that, like, and he went through with it.
yeah.
And
But now
he
you have the
overpaid way, like he way overpaid, but he meant it, and that's what was cool about it because he was like,
he's
yeah,
like, I'm going to pay what it
oh,
takes. But now we have the
yep,
owner of Facebook looking like a dude bro talking about how awesome Trump is.
yeah,
That, again, back to our point of wrapping this up, that doesn't happen 4 years ago.
no, no,
Zuckerberg does not talk about how cool Trump is, pumping his fist and doing all
yep,
that. He doesn't have the balls to do that if Elon Musk doesn't do what he did.
it's true. That's 1,000%.
The baseball players don't have the balls to go out there and pump their fist in the air and talk, you know, in symbolizing Trump's assassination
Yep, they're not afraid.
without Elon Musk doing what he does.
People don't care anymore. There is no cancel culture anymore. Like it's like
No, I think
I,
we've
they
evolved
don't.
past that
Yep.
finally. You
No
know,
one gives a fuck anymore. People are going to be themselves. They're going to be authentic. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And yeah, that video, I encourage everyone to watch it, man. But it's wild because I didn't know that. I don't know if you knew that before. I didn't know anything.
I did actually. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I had no idea about that. I really didn't.
yeah.
And I feel like Musk is the type of person. I know he has a ton of kids. He has a lot of kids, which is good for him. But yeah, I think
The dude can't even pull out of a parking spot.
God. It's gonna have that all around cameras for that, I guess. But yeah, but again, I come back to, and I think you kind of said it. Like you got to understand that there is nothing in this world that will motivate a father more than anything.
Well, if you remember, to kind of, you know, wrap it up here, um, do you remember what happened when his kid was attacked in the limo on the way home from the airport? He even thought that slightly might have had something to do with that account that tracks his planes, and
Oh
he
yeah,
got that guy off the internet real quick.
yeah, yeah,
He
yeah.
doesn't mess around when it comes to the safety of his kids.
No, and no one should. But again,
No,
I bring it up to talk about like you want to talk about someone who's just in a position to just kind of be, hey, just I'll have my money, just leave me the fuck alone. But
yeah,
you mess with this kid.
you didn't leave me alone.
You didn't leave him alone, and then also you took it a step further and you went after his kids, and he's going to take that personally. And someone with, like I said, unlimited resources is not that's not the person you want to make your enemy because you
Yeah,
can't win
but
that fight.
I think him buying X and Twitter was a cultural shift that we would not be seeing the things we've seen this week without that happening. And I think that's a kind of a nice place to stop off of just going, kids, we're winning.
Yeah, we're winning, and we're going to win.
There you go.
We're gonna win. All right, that's Rob Province. You can find him. He is the what is it? The
Educated hillbilly.
Educated Hillbilly on the X app. I don't know. He still has Fear the Floof. I don't know if he tweets from it, but he's
I still have Fear the Flu, but I still have the other ones. It's just I only have time for one account at a time.
until the next ban.
Exactly.
He's locked and loaded with 250,000 plus accounts. So good to go. And he's stacking Elon bucks every month. Just keep following him. Keep padding his account, pad mine as well. But you can find him there. And yeah, that's it.
I'm where you go for fart jokes.
Doesn't make a lot of fart jokes. Maybe makes, you know what? Let's try this. Let's do a month of fart jokes. Let's see how much money we get. See how much money we can get by making fart jokes. All right. That is the hillbilly, the educated hillbilly, Rob Province. We're out.
Peace out.